District Council. And this evening, Tuesday, the 6th of September, our September meeting, we're at the Town Hall in Enniskillen, and some of our members are joining via WebEx. The others are in the chamber, of course, as is the way at present. Now, you have the agenda in front of you, but before I come to the formal agenda, there's a couple of things I want to do. I want to start with expressions of sympathy, and in accordance with protocol, as well, because protocol is a very important guide in keeping us right. But I want to refer to two bereavements that have happened. I want to refer to the death of Mrs. Maureen West, Councillor Diana Armstrong's mother, and I want to refer to the passing and the death of Alison McCullough's mother, Alison, our Chief Executive, and Alison's mother was Ethna McCullough. Now, many of us will have taken our opportunity to sympathise, but I also want to throw it open to the meeting appropriately. If, for example, group leaders and or others, wish to comment at this time. And I think it would be appropriate, Victor, to go to you first in this one. So, Victor, get you started here.
Well, certainly on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party group, and sincere sympathy to both Alison and our colleague Diana, which personally I've spoke to both of them in the interim, which I know a lot of the members have done. So they're very much in our thoughts at this time, because at the end of the day, you've only ever have one mother, and she's not replaceable. Been there myself, I've lost my own mum, so deepest sympathies from us as a group, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll go now to Councillor Tommy Maguire. If that's okay, Tommy.
Gormaga Carly, thank you, Chair. And of course, on behalf of the Sinn Féin group, I wish to extend our condolences to Alison and to Diana. I know myself and yourself, Chair, did take the opportunity to visit Diana at the time, and I believe yourself, Chair, and other members attended at the Chief Executive's mother's funeral. So I just wish to express our deepest sympathy to both. And Gunyana Gia Trucker and Anamaka Delish. Gormaga Carly.
Thank you. Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Chair, and just likewise, on behalf of the DUP, could we pass on our sincere condolences to Alison and to Diana on their loss, and we trust that they'll know strength to face the days ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. If anyone from the SDLP grouping, either on WebEx or in person, wishes to add their voice.
Yeah.
Okay, Mary.
And apologies, I had actually just the QR, so I had to log on from home. But yes, on behalf of the party, our condolences to Alison on the death of her mother, Ethna, and Diana on the passing of her mother, whose service I was delighted to be fit to attend in Enniskillen. Losing a mother is a terrible experience to have to go through, and it's one thing that most of us have to go through, so it can be very difficult and challenging times. So I hope that the strength to get through it, and both ladies, from what I've heard, were very remarkable women indeed. So with the grace of God, Diana and Alison will get the grace to deal with this cross. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mary. I'll go now to Councillor Josephine Deehan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for inviting expressions of condolence on the two sad bereavements. First of all, to our Chief Executive, Miss Alison McCullough, I do want to personally express my sincere condolence to Alison on the passing of her mother, Ethna. As other councillors have said, the loss of a mother is a deeply felt pain. And I know for Alison in particular that her father is not that long past either. So it's particularly difficult to lose both parents. And I know that Alison will miss her mother very much. And it really is the end of an era for her. And so I do want to express my sincere condolences and to hope that the pain of her mother's passing will be soothed by the high regard that her mother was held in the community, and also by Alison's colleagues and friends. I also was greatly saddened to hear of the passing of Mrs. Maureen West, Councillor Diana Armstrong's mother. She too was an exemplary lady, and I know that Diana had a great love and regard for her mother, as did many people within the community. And it's a great loss, and I know that Diana will approach this loss in the way in which she approaches most things, with a sincerity and an accepting attitude. But it's still a very painful process, and I want to express my condolences. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Deehan. Councillor Keenan?
Yeah, I'd like to offer my sincere condolences to both Alison and Diane at the sad time. The death of a mother, I can only imagine, be very tough. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, so thank you, members, and very poignant, obviously. I'll go now to Councillor Diana Armstrong herself.
Chair, thank you, and thank you indeed for leading the tributes to both Alison's mother and to my own mother. We've been, as a family, we've been greatly comforted by the messages of sympathy we've received, the shared memories, and from time spent with friends, with fellow councillors and family, sharing memories of a much accomplished life. And for Alison as well, I know attending Alison's mother's funeral, the tribute that was paid to her mother, she was an exemplary lady, a remarkable lady too, and the sympathies are sincere. I pass those on to Alison as well, and to thank our colleagues in the chamber and also in the council. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Alison?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, and thanks firstly, Chair, your own attendance, and indeed the Vice Chair and members at both Mum's wake and funeral was very much appreciated. And I think when we've heard in recent days such tragic loss of young life, we also have to recognise when a life comes to a natural conclusion, as has been the case for both Diana and I recently. I think we also have to be thankful for that, but genuinely appreciate members' comments, their contacts over the recent weeks, and also the support of colleagues within the council. And thank you again, Chair, for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Maybe just to think also about other families at this time, including council staff who have lost loved ones, in the recent past, but very poignant that we should remember Diana's mother and Alison's mother. And just checking on protocol, I think it would be good now to observe a silence for a short period. I've maybe taken some advice on this, Alison, without going to you on this occasion. Okay, so maybe just a short moment silence for a while. Okay, Victor. Thank you, members. You see, Alison, I don't always go to you for advice, most of the time. Okay, the next item, again, is not on the agenda, but it's something we have to deal with. And I have had a request from Councillor Howard Thornton, who wishes to make a personal statement on an important matter. So, Councillor Howard Thornton, over to you. Get you on now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chairman, for giving me the opportunity to address the Chamber. After much consideration, I decided over a year ago that I would not be contesting the next council election. This was mainly due to the time commitments required for council work and other commitments and interests I have outside the council, which were starting to become adversely affected. At this time, a year ago, I informed my party accordingly and can now confirm that at a recent selection meeting, my successor has been selected. To give my successor a chance to get their feet under the table prior to next May's election and familiarise themselves with the workings of the council, I've decided to retire on the 15th of September, that is next Thursday. The Chief Executive has been informed of my impending retirement, and hopefully this will allow the necessary time for my successor to take up their appointment in time for the October meetings. When I look back at my time as a councillor, I am very grateful for the constituents who, first of all, voted me in as councillor, and I hope that I have responded as best I can to their issues throughout my time. With some issues, we were successful, and others maybe not to date, but I've always endeavoured to represent all those who approached me, regardless of their background or tradition. I would also like to pay tribute to the UP team of councillors who I've closely worked with on the council. There's been a high degree of support amongst us, camaraderie, and indeed humour within the team throughout my time. Thank you for that enjoyable experience. I was greatly honoured to be nominated by them to take up the role as the first Unionist chairman of this new council, a year I will never forget. I had a very busy year attending events right across the council area and beyond, and across all communities, where I was very much welcomed by all. Democratic Services greatly assisted in pointing me in the right direction and providing the basis for speeches I delivered. During this year as chairman, I witnessed the high level of achievers we have across all sports, the arts, and the social fabric of our society. We are blessed with the involvement of volunteers who assist in extensive charity work and a wide variety of social activities. I have always enjoyed a fantastic relationship with council staff at all levels, whether manual or administrative in nature. It is they who make this organisation tick and make me proud to say I am from this council area, but more specifically from Enniskillen. I thank all present and past staff for their support and response to my request for assistance. This includes the current and past chief executives, as well as the directors, officers and staff I have had the pleasure to work with. As an Enniskillen DEA councillor, I have always had the pleasure of working with other party representatives very closely. We, although from differing backgrounds, have worked well together and for what I believe is the benefit of all our community. I hope the planned improvements will continue, and I thank them for their cooperation. I would also thank all councillors who I have or are currently working with. Of course, we need to have thick skins at times, as always the ups and downs. That is the nature of local politics, but I genuinely have always enjoyed good relationships and respect for and by all. This has made life much easier for me, both inside and outside the chamber. I will look back on my time with council with fond memories, and I would wish my successor every success in the future. Whilst I will be taking more of a back seat, I will still be working in the background with my party, providing support for my successor, and observing at a distance what is happening within the council area. Thank you all for my time on council. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. I'm going to go straight away to Councillor Robert Irvine.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm not going to reiterate a lot of what Howard has said. All I can say is I think the council chamber will be lacking for his experience. I hope and I know that his successor, whenever that name is made known, will try and fill the boots that Howard has filled. I personally have worked well with Howard over the last 7.5 years, and I look forward to working with the successor. And I think a lot of what Howard has said is that we as councillors on this council try our utmost for the citizens of this area. We come from different political backgrounds and different social backgrounds, but I think the one common thread among us all is that we want to work together for the good of the greater populace. And invariably we do that at times. At times party politics does come in, but it doesn't actually impinge that much on the effective working on the council. And I look forward to that. And I think council works very well from a point of view of councillors, but also from the chief executive right down to the front-facing staff. And I think Howard has said that. And I think we have to reiterate that. We are blessed actually in this area with a lovely area to live in and actually lovely people to work with. And it has been a pleasure, I know, for Howard, but for personal reasons, he has to go into the sunset, not completely, but he will be there in the background. I personally will miss him. I know our party will miss him. And I think the Chamber will miss his interjections and his strategic vision and foresight. So Howard, enjoy your retirement. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Moving now to Councillor Deehan. And just to say, Councillor Deehan, just before, Anne-Marie Fitzgerald has sent in a message. We've got the message about IT difficulties or whatever, and it's being attended to as we understand it. So, Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, Chair, I'm greatly saddened actually to hear Councillor Howard Thornton's announcement of his retirement. Chair, I think we have all benefited from his presence within the Chamber, from his experience and his wisdom. I feel that he has really delivered great service to local government and in particular to Fermanagh and Omagh District Council. He had a superb year as chair of this new council and he conducted his role with great dedication, dignity and professionalism. And Howard was always greatly appreciative of the support that he had from colleagues and officers alike. So I think we're going to miss Howard greatly, Chair, and I just want to thank him and say that I have appreciated his input very much, but obviously it's a personal decision for him and for his family, and I wish him every happiness and many long years of happy retirement. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Councillor Deehan. And Corleor Donal O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I too am saddened by the announcement that Councillor Thornton's retirement. I can't say I'm always agreed with Councillor Thornton on many issues, but we did agree on some issues, and I've always found him to be a very committed council worker on behalf of the Enniskillen DEA area. He's also someone who has a great sense of humour, which is to me a redeeming feature for someone holding the positions he does. But I think he's always treated me with respect, and I think that we may have disagreed, but many times we also found common ground, and I certainly think he will be missed in the council. I think as someone who does work in Enniskillen, I know when other councillors are doing a lot of work on the ground, and I would say Councillor Thornton is certainly doing and has done a lot of work on the ground, and people would often reference the work he has done to me, and that will be missed, I do believe. But I know he's got other priorities in life, and I wish him the best with them. And all I hope is that maybe this time next year or so, he'll consider giving better than the high preference, but it may be a number one to a cross-community Labour councillor down our way. Okay, thanks, Chair.
Okay, I think he's already indicated that his vote's predetermined. Okay, but I'm going to go back into the chamber now to Corleor Tomas McGeer, and then I'm going to go to Councillor Blake, who's on WebEx. Councillor Maguire first. I'm going to put you on now. Yeah. Takes away.
Carly, thanks, Chair. And I'm surprised and shocked to hear of Howard's decision, but I have to say that over the last number of years when we've worked together in this chamber, especially on the subcommittees relating to the public realm scheme and the arts scheme and other issues that pertain to Enniskillen alone, I think we were on the same page, certainly, in trying to provide the best service and that we could for the people of Enniskillen. That's the common denominator in the chamber, I think, and it does break down all the barriers of the big political issues where obviously we have differences, but it's that common feeling that we're in this chamber to do the best we can for the people of our area. And Howard, you certainly did do that in any time I was involved with you in any of the committees. In a conversation earlier, you mentioned the banter that we used to enjoy at council meetings, which were certainly curtailed during the pandemic times, and the online meetings has restricted that. We do remember those days with fond memories, and I hope you've enjoyed your term as a councillor, Howard, and certainly I'll see you about the street. Howard, best of luck to you, Howard.
Thank you. And Councillor Blake, to be followed by Councillor Green. Councillor Blake.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for letting me in there. Sorry, my apologies for actually arriving late to the meeting, but it's completely taken me by surprise then to hear the news about Councillor Thornton. It's greatly shocked me now, so I just wanted to pay tribute to the time that we've had working together, especially the time I've got to know him this past 5 years in the council. I've been working with him, and I always think, as Tommy referred to there, the common denominator that we all had was we were all Enniskillen councillors. I'm very proud of it, and we always worked together, and Howard always put Enniskillen first and foremost. So, and we always enjoyed the crack with him too, because you really have a great sense of humour, Howard. So I just wanted to pay tribute to you and wish you all the best for the future, and I look forward to seeing you out and around the town, because the one thing I'll always know is you'll always put Enniskillen first and foremost. So the best of luck to you, Howard.
Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would also like to wish Howard all the best in his retirement. I'm sure he'll keep himself busy. I'm really kind of saddened that Howard's leaving, because I believe he was one of the few unionists, never mind Ulster Unionist councillors, that near always agreed with me. So I will miss that, you know. So all the best, Howard. And just one other technical thing, I think the broadband's down all around the chamber. So.
Okay. In that event, yeah. We'll take Councillor Thompson now, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. And again, like others, it's of great sadness that I learn of Councillor Thornton stepping down from council. I have served with Councillor Thornton, Howard, on the council for the last 7 years, I suppose, from the setup of the new council. I always found them to be very professional and very affable, and a man that could work with anyone across the chamber. So I just want to pay tribute on behalf of the Democratic Unionist Party grouping to Howard, and to wish him all the very best for the future. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I have other councillors indicating, so I will be coming back to them, but I have to take a pause now for the purpose of IT, the broadband issue, to be resolved. So just a brief pause. Okay. So we're pausing the recording at 7:26. after that pause, members, we're going to resume the meeting. Aye, okay, and I have, we're in the middle of responding to Councillor Thornton's personal statement on a matter of importance, i.e. that he's going to step down from local government politics for personal reasons. And we had a couple of indications. One is withdrawn. Councillor McCaffrey has withdrawn his request to speak. So I'm going to go to Councillor Stephen Donnelly now. Stephen.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I think that there will be a significant amount of upset, I think, actually, within the community to that personal statement from Councillor Thornton, because I think that he is somebody who is immensely well respected in this chamber and further afield, and his contribution is one that has been well received over many years. And indeed, in recent years, we've seen him serve our district with great pride and enthusiasm as our chair. We've seen him bring an inquisitive eye to the proceedings in this chamber over the course of the many committees that we have, and we've seen him do his utmost to represent the best interests of Enniskillen and County Fermanagh in his work in this chamber and on the ground in the community. So while we may have exchanged the odd barb or word of disagreement over the course of the years, I will say that I've always found that his interactions with me have always largely been good-natured and typified by good humour. And so whilst I will be wishing you, Howard, a very happy retirement, I will say that one thing that I have learned from your party colleague Ross Hussey over the years is that once you have the political bug, it's very difficult in any meaningful sense to ever retire. So whilst I wish you the best of luck, that I'll say uncontroversially, certainly, that I wish you the very best of luck in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Corleor Christor McCaffrey, Liddell.
I just want to come in and extend my congratulations on the retirement to Councillor Thornton, but also I suppose my disappointment that he will be leaving us in the chamber. I just want to share a quick story. Howard's work's been rightfully praised, and even I had heard about the great work he has done in Enniskillen from various people. But I do want to share, I suppose, a unique memory I have of Councillor Thornton, and it was before I was even an elected member of this council, back when I worked for the council and was carrying out surveys at the Lady of the Lake Festival during his year as chairman. And I remember, a very insightful and polite conversation that we had. And I asked him to complete a survey, mostly for the crack. I didn't think the chairman of the council would ever have time or would be bothered to do so, but have to say Councillor Thornton did complete the survey, and it was done very thoroughly. And so we had a short conversation as well, and the fact that I suppose that memory stuck with me when I was about 21 or so, says a lot about Councillor Thornton's personality and the way he affects people, and the good humour and good memories everyone has of him. So just again to extend my congratulations and a well done on all your hard work, and enjoy your well-deserved retirement. And don't miss the council meetings too much. Try to enjoy the next few of this week while you are here. So all the best, Howard.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McCaffrey, and thanks to every councillor who spoke. Just on a personal note, I will say that I want to thank Councillor Thornton for his service to the council. It has been exemplary, as everybody has said, and strong representative and advocate for the people of Enniskillen. There's no doubt about that. And just to wish Howard well, him and his family, on the health front and every other front into the future. Do you want to come back on any of that, Howard? This is a time for a wee speak.
Chair, I just wanted to say thank you to all the comments that have been passed by all the councillors. I don't think I really deserved such compliments, but I wish the council, all the councillors, all the best in the future, and I thank them for their kind remarks. Thank you, Chair.
And them all trying to take your seat at the next election. They're all going to be trying to unseat you. You know what I mean? Okay, I think Councillor O'Coffey may have a point of order request.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just perhaps there's an easy answer to this, but usually at these full council meetings, we consider the minutes of the committee meetings for accuracy. And I don't appear to see that on the agenda for today's meeting. I've looked to the agenda for tomorrow's night's meeting, and it is not on the agenda for there either. So I'm just wondering, where are we going to consider the accuracy of the committees? Thank you, Chair.
No problem. I'll bring in our Chief Executive. Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair.
Thanks,
Yes, Chair. Councillor, we already considered the accuracy of those various committees which were in July at the council meeting on the 28th of July, which will be the first set of minutes we'll review this evening. And as you know, we had no committee meetings in August, so we're therefore fully up to date, and we'll start our committee schedule again from tomorrow evening.
Okay, I think that's well explained. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, sir.
Okay, no problem. Donald. So we'll move now proper into the meeting agenda as structured and as sent out to everyone. So in relation to apologies, I think we'll have apologies for Councillor Rennie and Councillor Swift, but I'll go to the group leaders variously, and starting with Councillor Tommy Maguire.
There's no apologies from the Sinn Féin group in tonight, Chair.
Thank you. You be next, Victor. Okay, I had you on. Okay.
Yes, Councillor Rennie, as you've alluded to, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Stevenson. Sorry, not Councillor Stevenson. It's on my screen. Is Councillor Stevenson, Councillor Robinson?
No apologies.
No apologies from the DUP. Okay. Mary Garrity.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. No apologies from ourselves tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then independents and smaller parties.
Well, then what are we fucking unreal from that? I don't know, just want to just want to fucking know. But I don't know who would take over.
Hello.
Morning, mate.
Yeah, apologies for Councillor Swift. There was a death in her family. She's mentioned it there now.
Okay, thank you. And there may be some interference, some background noise and conversation from one of the contributors.
I would say he would somebody, you know, because it's only a champion.
Is it Podrigan? Podrigan, is your microphone on at this time?
Don't be ridiculing the chair.
Bert?
Sorry.
Okay, and to assist the smooth running of this meeting then, if we could have the hands down on the screen, please. Councillor Blake, Councillor Thompson and Councillor Keenan, can you remove your hands, please? So I think we've got our apologies, and we're moving now to confirm and sign minutes of the council meeting held on the 28th of July. That's paper A, and it's accuracy first, and there are 12 pages at issue. So I'll just go to page 1. Okay, Councillor O'Coffey, and then Councillor Baird. Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, Chair, it's on page 2, so I was just had my hand up a little bit early there, so
Okay.
hopefully I haven't come out of place. But it's just in regard to page 2, there was the summary of the vote that occurred at the beginning of the meeting, and it's obviously that I have taken a position there in regard to matters in relation to Lord Trimble's book of condolence, and obviously I don't think any of us had any issues on it. The issue in question that caused the dissension was whether this would be there would be a change to the system under which obviously every member would have an input. And
Councillor Coffey, this is accuracy only.
It is. I'm just looking because usually at the end of a vote, there's a statement on what was agreed, and there is not on page 2, and that's really what I wanted to ask. Because if you look down the paper, under every vote, there is agreed that, or resolved that. Sorry, resolved. So I'm wondering, is it not more appropriate that we would have had a resolved that clarifies what was actually voted upon and why it was voted upon? Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Chair, no, Councillor O'Coffey is correct. That must have just been, it would be as per the action. So essentially it was on the proposal of Councillor Warrington, seconded by Councillor Maguire, that the arrangements for opening a book of condolence be reviewed. So that, yes, that would normally have been just under there for the proposal was carried, that would normally have been included. So that would be the text from the agreed actions. We can amend on that basis, Chair, yes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor O'Coffey. Councillor Baird.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. It's in relation to page 1 and 2 and the count for the vote. it shows 25 for, 2 against and no abstentions. Now, I counted 31 councillors present. My own name is not present there, so I would be surprised if I hadn't voted for that particular motion. I mean, it carried well and rightly so, but I would have been concerned that maybe people would have perceived me as being a political ostrich and not voting or begrudging, and I wouldn't want anybody to do that. So I'm just wondering what has happened there. As I say, I counted, I think, 31 councillors present.
Certainly, Chair. No, that the list that appears in the minutes would be the list taken directly from the system, so all votes would have been recorded.
But I noticed in another vote later on, non-voting was included, so there's no non-voting there. As I say, 27 people voted, yet there were 31 present, and I was sure I had voted, obviously, in the issue concerned. I just don't know. I'm happy enough to let it go, but it just seems strange that my name's not down as having voted for.
Okay, and it will be recorded. It'll be recorded in the minutes of this meeting that you made that point. Okay, thank you. Councillor Warrington.
My interjection is very simple. It says the location for the meeting was the town hall in Skillen. It was actually in the Grange in Omagh.
Okay. Okay, so page 3. Page 4. Okay. Councillor McAleer.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, page 4, and it's item 4.3 on the Valley Nursing Home issue. Just the main paragraph or the substantive paragraph on that, the 4th line down, it reads, there were several important omissions in the blank and subsequently, so we've made an omission when recording about the important omission, so just I would imagine report or whatever should be the missing word there, just in relation to that for accuracy, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, move on. Okay, thank you. Page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8. I'll go to Corlier, Thomas McGeer.
I'm going to carry it's just that we seem to be still having a problem with bringing up the notes. Or the minutes of the council meeting. When I press on it, it normally opens up the paperwork. I'm not getting it. And a few other councillors have the same issue. I don't know.
Okay.
Check with IT.
Okay, we'll get IT to look at that, and we're going to proceed as perhaps suggested earlier. Okay, I'm going to remain with page 8 and page 9 for accuracy here. IT will have heard your statement, Councillor McGuire. 8, 9, page, you looking, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so I need a proposer and a seconder then for the adoption of the accuracy. Okay, proposed by Councillor Warrington, is that right? And then Councillor Robinson has seconded. Thank you. Moving on then in the agenda to, okay, we're glad to note that the IT matter has been further resolved. No matter what goes on, remain calm. Okay, there's a lot going on, isn't there? Okay, so next up would be item 3, and again, this is for accuracy, 7 pages, and it's the to confirm and sign the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 21st of July. Okay, so for accuracy, page 1, page 2, 3, 4. Okay. Corlier O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just at the bottom of page 4, there's a reference, which is accurate, that the Director of Regeneration and Planning advised that myself, among others, had availed of required training. However, in the subsequent period, obviously, I'd provided detail of the training I had attended. So I'm just wondering whether that's a matter of accuracy or a matter of something from matters arising.
Okay, I think it's a matter arising. So page 4 and page 5 and page 6 and page 7. Okay, just seek a proposer and seconder for that. Okay, Councillor Armstrong, happy to propose. And is there a seconder? I see Councillor McCann indicating. Okay, thank you. And then move on to item 4, to confirm and sign the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 17th of August 2022, and that was paper C. And I think that one amounts to 6 pages that we'll be going through. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, Yahanaka Kuig, page 5, and finally, does you have Councillor McAleer here, if you wish to come in, Councillor?
Thanks, Chair Gormagit. Yeah, it's page 5 and item 5.1, the pothole repairs. Now, the last night, it was noted that I actually dissented from this. Now, I spoke on it, and I was happy that the proposer, Councillor Swift, had actually made provision that it would go along with our or adhere to our BDS guidelines. So I was actually happy to support this proposal. Now, I didn't raise objection on the night, and I know my name was noted as dissenting on the night, and I attempted to come back in to correct that at the time. But unfortunately, we were trying to get the meeting finished up at that stage. But I didn't actually dissent to that particular one. So I'd just like that corrected, please. Thank you.
Okay, we can note that for sure. And no other speakers there.
Chair.
You
Chair,
put your hand and then you take it down again.
Pardon?
Okay, accuracy only here, Bert.
I know it was just to do with the last, the road service.
Is it an accuracy of minutes matter or a matters raising?
No. It's a
I'll bring you in
raising.
matters raising.
Sorry.
No problem. Okay. And page 4 in that case, wasn't it? Sorry, page 5 and then page 6, isn't that right? Okay, thanks for that help. Just need a proposer, Councillor Stevenson, and a seconder to adopt that in terms of accuracy. Okay, Councillor Irvine, thanks. Okay, that's great. So now we're at the point in the meeting where we ask for declarations of interest, and that is item 5. So does any member wish to declare an interest? Councillor McAleer? Councillor McAleer?
Apologies, Chair.
Okay.
Left the hand up there. All right.
No problem. Okay, so we move then to matters arising, and we're dealing with the council meeting of the 28th of July. Okay, so again, matters arising. We'll go to, that would be, I think that's 12 pages in total, isn't it? So page 1 for matters arising, page 2, 3, 4. Okay, yourself, Alison, as Chief Executive, come in, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to draw members' attention to 2 items of correspondence relating to item 4.3, the closure of the Valley Nursing Home Clogher. So firstly, we have a response from the Minister of Health, and this was in relation to the fatalities and the closure decision. And the second item of correspondence is from the Coroner's Service. The Council had written to ask for an opinion in relation to the matter, and the response from the Coroner's Service sets out their responsibilities and also advises that it would be inappropriate at this point for them to comment. They're saying, subject to the reporting of particular cases for investigation, neither is it for this office to investigate the decision of the RQIA nor have an opinion on same.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, we'll have a motion up ahead and on a related matter, so we'll focus on the correspondence, and I'll go straight away to Corleor O'Coffey.
Yeah, Chair, I'm not going to develop this because obviously I'll speak on it further, but I just think that these responses are very inadequate. I don't think the response from the coroner's service even addresses the issues which we'd raised. It certainly confirms that there's been no investigation as from the coroner's service in relation to the 14 plus deaths that have been confirmed by the minister's correspondence. So I'm happy to note, but I'll be making further comments on this later on. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Deehan.
Well, thank you. And Chair, as you know, I have seconded Councillor O'Coffey's motion, which will come up later in the evening. But I'm really surprised at the lack of detail in this response. I mean, I'm conscious of medical confidentiality, but I think the crux of the motion is to assess the impact on residents of the closure of the Valley Nursing Home. And it's really quite extraordinary that there have since been 14 deaths of former residents since the closure of the home. Now, the Minister does say that all the residents had medical conditions and that their deaths were not as a result of the transfer, but there's actually no attempt to give any further explanation or reassurance. So I find the response disappointing, but Chair, I will defer any further comment until the substantive motion is debated in the Council chamber, Chair, later this evening, hopefully. Thank you.
Okay. And Councillor Deehan, you'd be happy to second the noting of the correspondence?
Yes, I'll second the noting, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And moving on, matters arising then. Page 5. Councillor Deehan, you might just take down your hand unless you want to speak on this one. No, thank you. Page 5. And then, okay, Corleor McGill-Eyre, Councillor McAleer.
Thanks, Chair. Just to be a very brief point in this one, I noticed that we've issued correspondence to in relation to the broadband facilities, but we haven't yet received any response. So let's hope the broadband speeds that this company is providing are a bit quicker than their responses to council, because that was, I think, 2 months ago now, and we're still waiting on feedback on that. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Emmett. Page 6. Page 7. Go back to Councillor McGill-Eyre. Councillor Emmett McAleer.
Thanks, Chair. Just I know that there's correspondence related to that, so I'm not sure if the Chief Executive was looking in there first, just.
Yep, of course, yep.
That's fine, Chair. It was really just to alert members to the letter received from the Police Service for Northern Ireland in relation to the strategic review of the mining industry. So it will be discussed at the meeting of the Firearms and Explosive Safety Board on the 9th of September, and we will receive a more detailed response following that meeting.
Okay, and Councillor McAleer.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thanks to the Chief Executive for that. I think it's, first of all, it's notable that the individual previously identified by the PSNI as having the operational responsibility, and again, who this communication was forwarded to, has not only failed to respond, but he's actually failed to acknowledge the request from the council. And I think that's quite concerning. And whilst a more detailed response to our concerns being forwarded is something to look forward to and something that will be received, I think concerns, and it has to be stated, the concerns persist around the continued seeming lack of acceptance of the core issues being raised here, and that's namely the manner in which the decision to lump the cost onto the public purse at the behest of whoever, because that's still unclear, from the toxic mining industry, who now escape scot-free. And secondly, the extent of the expense and what that'll entail should approval be given to any of these toxic mining operations. Why is this the case, and what is the response from the policing board? We're still awaiting that, obviously. What was their role, or what consultation did they receive? Is it evident that there is a gap in what actually happened here, a lack of understanding or a reluctance to admit how exactly this about-turning policy came about? And I would question whether the decision taken was legal, whether it was ethical. Was it made legally? Were policy and procedures followed? And that's what we were talking about. You were referenced at the start of the meeting, sir, Chair, the importance of procedure and protocol. These are questions we must keep pressing to have an answer on, as the implications or repercussions cannot fully be quantified at present. So I would actually raise a proposal that representation be made to the policing board to add this item to the agenda for their next meeting, because seemingly the PSNI have refused to date to answer questions. And the danger there is that they leave the public to make their own assumptions, which may or may not be correct, but actually shed no light on the facts of the matter. So I'm making that as a proposal, Chair. And again, I look forward to receiving back what this internal investigation will actually show, although my faith on internal investigations is somewhat limited. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Emmett, would you also propose the noting of the correspondence?
Happy to do that too, Chair, yeah.
Thank you. Move now to Councillor McCloherty.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to second the noting of the correspondence. Again, I have serious concerns about the line that this council has taken around this issue. There are serious times ahead for the quarrying industry, and to lump extra costs on them, which is the danger that we are engaging in. The police identified 4 industries when they spoke to us who avail of explosives. That is the quarrying industry, construction, demolition industry, and the film industry, as well as 3 mines. In this area, we have a lot of family-run businesses which quarry. They already have seen massive increase, particularly in concrete and tarmac. Concrete is currently sitting at about £100 a tonne, and I'm told that there's another 20% going on it next month. We are going to see family businesses being put to the wall if they're going to have to pay the additional costs of escorting explosives to their sites in order to hit one small group, when there's other ways at which they can be brought to task. But over explosives, I think, is going to be poor when we go back to our electorate and say, well, we closed your business down because we wanted to close the gold mines down. And I find it very hard to take.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McCloherty. Corlior O'Coffey.
Yeah, I'm happy to second Councillor McAleer's proposal there. I think that I understand where Councillor McCloherty is coming from. There are certainly a lot of concerns in the quarrying industry at the moment, like many industries, it has to be said. But the focus here is on gold mining, and there's a very big difference between gold mining and quarrying of for stone and all that goes into the concrete sector and so on. Also, the intensity of the use of explosives is completely different. And I think there are genuine concerns in the community around the toxic mining industries. These are industries that are proclaiming around the world that they're going to make billions of pounds of profits, billions, not just millions, billions. And they are getting a public subvention effectively when it is, as Councillor McCloherty has stated, a time of great concern to everyone. Our public services are chronically underfunded, health services in crisis, no money for community policing, and we're seeing money going to subvent these for-profit operations. So I think that considering the amount of explosives is completely there's no comparison in it. This is like a red herring argument that has been raised here. Nobody's saying anything about quarrying, activities. This is gold mining. We need to find out how much public money is going to subvent gold mine industries, which the community as a whole is against. That's the question, and I'm happy to second on that basis. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Warrington.
Thank you. Well, just coming in behind my colleague, Councillor McCloherty, I think what Councillor O'Coffey was failing to see was the fact of all the industries that will be affected by this. And he tried to differentiate between the gold mine and the quarries. At this moment in time, there is no difference between the quarries and the gold mine or whatever, and the police work that goes towards them. For that reason, the Ulster Unionist Party will not be supporting or will be voting against Councillor McAleer's proposal. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Deehan is next.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I want to speak in support of Councillor McAleer's proposal. I think, and I have made these comments in previous debates around this matter, Chair, this is all about spending public money wisely. And Chair, as a member of the PCSP, I see day and daily the impact that budgetary restrictions have on the delivery of community policing. I myself am interested in building up community policing to safeguard our community. I do not believe in huge amounts of public money being spent on security for explosive use by a mining company which is set to make billions of pounds of profit. I think there's an anomaly there. That anomaly needs to be corrected. We totally support the quarrying industry and those businesses run by local families, and we have no wish to penalise them, or indeed the construction and demolition industry or the film industry. But certainly I am totally opposed to huge amounts of public money being spent in this way, or should I say being misspent in this way. For that reason, I want to support Councillor McAleer's proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. My party will not be supporting it because you're affecting the quarries as well, as Councillor McLaughlin has already said, and I'll not redress what he's already over. The quarries is getting tight enough at the minute. I was talking to a quarryman the other night, a family member, and he says, I mightn't even be here in another year's time. He says, the way the thing's going, he says, the cost of everything, and now he says, if this happens too, he says, I'll not be paying for explosives to come to my quarry. He says, I'll just have to close the gate, he says. So we'll not be supporting it either.
Okay. Councillor Keenan, and just Councillor Deegan, can you take your hand down, please? Councillor Keenan now.
I fully support Emma's proposal, and I think some of the previous speakers have outlined very clearly that the cost that the local quarries are having on the gold mining is totally incomparable. And the way the decision was made to pay for the exporting of these explosives and the handle of them, there was no accountability. Who made this decision that all this public money should be spent in this way? Was the public ever notified about this or any decision-making process in it? It's not accountable. The majority of the public don't want it. There's over 40,000 signatures against the mine, and that's a separate issue. I understand that, but even with our own community plan and the plan that we have, we're for the environment, we're for tourism, we're for health, we're for promoting all that sort of stuff. We've noted at the minute, if you look around us, we've always seen there's no money for doctors. We want to bring this mining company in to poison the land and poison the people, and no doctors to care for them. It doesn't make sense. I'll fully support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Baird.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My colleague, Councillor McLaughlin, very clearly illustrated the sectors of industry that are using explosives. And the issue here, the singular issue is here, the movement of explosives and how the police manage the movement of that. And to make fish of one sector and flesh of another, it's completely wrong, if not hypocritical. Just because some people have an issue with one sector, they're honing in on that. The movement of the explosives for the four sectors is common to all and should be dealt with accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baird. Councillor Wilson, and Eamon, if you take down your hand, please. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, Chair. Well, I took part in a debate about this back some time ago, and I would agree with my colleagues. Yes, I know two quarries at this minute in time who are blasting rock for. Yes, some of the quarries maybe don't need explosives, but anyway, I will be supporting my colleagues. The only thing I am, if it goes to the vote, I do not have a way of voting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. And Corleor Hodrigino Kelly.
Guramila, Barry, just from the outset, you have to separate quarrying and gold mining. They are two completely different things. We are definitely not against men or women who are working in a quarry, but the Sinn Féin team will not be supporting the gold mining issue, and therefore will be supporting Emmett McAleer.
Okay, thank you. So obviously then, members, we have dissent, we have division on this matter. So we're going to set up a vote. And it will be a recorded vote. It will be a recorded vote as requested by Councillor McAleer.
Chair, there's nothing appearing on my screen.
Hopefully that resolves itself very, very soon. Because we need it to appear on your screen.
Well, there's nothing here for me to vote on. Either for, against, or abstain. But if you say,
Okay, there is a facility on WebEx for voting.
not on mine.
I'd like to think. I press mine again. I have voted, but it'll appear soon, will it?
Chair, I'm similarly having a problem and there's no vote appeared on my screen.
Okay. I'll have to note that in mid-vote.
Yes, and I'm similar. There's nothing on mine.
Chair, I'm the same. I think there might be a problem for those using WebEx.
Okay.
Chair, I
was fit to vote there, Chair.
Me too. Councillor McCarthy's fit to vote here.
Bishop Freshen.
Aye. Okay. So meeting is concluded. Okay. Okay. Okay, members, can I have your attention, please? Obviously, there's an inconsistency here in terms of who is able to vote and who isn't able to vote, technologically and otherwise. So we're going to have to start this again. And what we're going to do is a roll call on the voting intentions of each of the councillors. And that's going to be recorded. So I think everybody's familiar with that. I just proceed. Okay. Okay. So you know we're voting on the proposal of Councillor McAleer as seconded by Councillor O'Coffey. Okay. So I'll start.
Chairman, sorry for interjecting. Could we just get clarity on the exact proposal, just when there was such confusion throughout the last few minutes? But just most people are clear, but thanks for that.
Okay, Alison will read this out now. Thank you.
Chair, it's that we write to the policing board and request that this matter, namely the decisions around the security costs and of escorting the explosives, be included on the next agenda of the policing board.
Okay, so that's the motion, the proposal as proposed and seconded. Yep. Councillor Green, I'll bring you in now, Seamus. I've got to get this off my screen first. X. Okay. Councillor Green.
Just on that motion there, it doesn't seem to make it clear that it's just the gold mining side of it. Just a wee bit confused on that. Should it not be included that it's the price on gold mining rather than the quarries and that? Can I just get that clarified from the proposer?
Okay. I would ask Councillor McAleer to address that question.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, well, obviously, it's the whole history behind this has been to do with an announcement made that the PSNI, having previously sought compensation from gold mining industries, subsequently made an about turn, gave the money back that they had taken, and then said they would collect that from the public purse. Now, I don't know how many councillors aren't aware of what's going on here. Councillor Warrington himself, the Dalradian inside man on the council, has actually...
Okay, but Emmett, can I ask you in relation to this proposal specifically, is it referring to gold mining or is it also incorporating the other sectors?
Chair, I thought it was explicit or implicit that it was. If it needs to be added that it's gold mining, I'm happy enough to do that. I have no issue with that whatsoever.
I think it needs to be explicit just because of their positions. Thank you, Emmett.
Not a problem.
Okay, over to you now, Alison, if you could... Okay, if you...
Just that we would clarify that we write to the policing board that the matter relating to the escorting of explosives for the gold mining industry be placed on the next agenda of the policing board for its consideration.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'm going to go to the roll call vote. Won't be taking any other interventions. So straight away, I'm going to go Councillor Diana Armstrong. Thank you. Councillor Baird. Councillor Bell.
Against, Chair.
Councillor Blake. Councillor Paul Blake. Okay. Councillor Buchanan. Councillor Glenn Campbell. Okay. Councillor Sean Clark.
For.
Councillor Debbie Coyle. Oh, I sorry, I better. Just concentrating on the list there. Okay, Councillor Coyle, 4. Councillor John Coyle. See, it's red on my screen. Yes. Okay, Mary. Councillor Garrity.
4. Sorry.
It's sorry about this. It's the screen.
All right. Okay.
Complementing the seating order of people. So it'll be Councillor Coyle is 4. Okay. Councillor Deehan.
4, Chair.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
4.
Councillor Stephen Donnelly. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
4.
Okay. 4, okay. Councillor Keith Elliott.
Against.
And Councillor Feely.
4.
Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald.
4.
Councillor Gannon, and you're in position there. Okay,
4, Chair. Thank you.
thank you. Councillor Garrity
4, Chair.
and Councillor Green,
4.
Councillor Irvine,
Against.
Councillor Keenan,
4.
Councillor Catherine Kelly,
4, Chair.
Councillor Podrigan Kelly.
4.
Okay, and then Councillor Tommy McGuire.
Vavor, Carly, 4.
Okay, Councillor McAleer.
For accountability.
Corlior McCaffrey, Councillor McCaffrey.
Our son and Walter, Chair, 4.
And then Councillor McCann.
Tommy Avaver, 4.
Flaherty.
Again.
Okay. Myself next, 4. Councillor Garvin McPhillips.
4, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Donald O'Coffey.
4.
Councillor Thomas O'Reilly.
4.
Councillor Rennie is an apology, isn't that right? Okay. And Councillor Paul Robinson.
Against.
You. And Councillor Paul Stevenson.
Against.
Councillor Swift is an apology. And Councillor Thompson.
Against, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Thornton.
Against.
Councillor Warrington.
Against.
Councillor Wilson.
Against.
Councillor Withers.
Or.
Okay, so that concludes the voting of the councillors in that matter. We'll do the sums now.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't. Could I come in and vote as Councillor Blake here?
Okay. Okay, I'm happy to take your vote. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, 4.
Okay.
Thanks,
And
Chair.
Is Councillor Campbell in the meeting at this point? No. Okay. Or any other councillor who we didn't reach? No, nobody has returned. Okay. So-
Chair, oh, sorry.
Over
We
to
had 24 votes for, 13 against, so the proposal is carried.
Okay, thank you. So continuing on in relation to matters raising, page 7. Patrick, if you could just take down your hand, please. And then Councillor McAleer, you're in on page 7. Councillor McAleer, do you wish to speak? Or is your hand up in error?
Sorry, Chair. You know, page 7 is item 9.3.
Yep.
So it's the meeting with the Minister for Infrastructure. Just very briefly on that, I think there were some very concerning, I thought, comments made by the Minister during that meeting, including, I suppose, what he said himself was a continuing desire to make access to appeal more difficult for people and communities by trying to raise or attempt to raise the bar in terms of hearing judicial reviews or having ground or leave for judicial reviews, which I thought it was very concerning. And again, as he spoke, I thought that he seemed keen to refuse to accept any blame on the part of either his department, and I know this is a long-standing issue prior to him taking office, for the failings and shortcomings and gross over-expenditure when dealing with projects, seemingly happier to place the blame on those who are, and it has to be said in the majority of cases, legitimately objecting to plans which may be environmentally unsound or a danger to health and well-being in both the short and long term. I know Minister O'Dowd, divulged he'd raised the concern previously with the Lord Chief Justice, and at the time he was informed he was wrong in his assertion by the Lord Chief Justice, but it's a bit concerning just that he continues to carry that through. And I know just members will be aware too that the government down south, again to the shame of the Green Party there, is railroading through changes to the judicial process that reduces citizens' access to justice in the 26 counties. And I know your own party chair has spoken against this in the south, in the Dáil, and I would hope that there would be maybe a wee bit better consistency when it comes to issues here. Again, last year in a report on major capital projects, the Assembly's PAC, the Public Accounts Committee, recommended the government explore with the judiciary the bar at which judicial review should be set. Unfortunately for now, the Department of Justice has rejected that notion, and indeed I commend the Minister for Justice on taking that stance, because at the time that report from the PAC wrongly conflated the DFA's successive defence of one judicial review with a challenge by the public being vexatious. And as a result of that course of subsequent correspondence, thankfully, the committee has backed away somewhat from that erroneous finding. And just finally, the NIEO is currently undertaking a review of the judicial process. So it's just to make people aware that generally there is an assault by governments on citizens' current rights to access justice right across these islands. And unfortunately, from the meeting we had with Minister O'Dowd, it seems he's wedded to that authoritarian approach to governance. And it's the role of this council to oppose such opinions and protect the rights of our residents and our communities. And that's something we have done and we must continue to do. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Now, I do know for sure, based on the meeting itself, that Minister O'Dowd would suggest that you might be misrepresenting what he said about appeals and making them more difficult. I know he was very robust and challenging about that on the day. So I think, to be fair to the Minister, he would need to be present just to state or restate that. And then I want to go to Councillor Green, followed by Councillor McCann. And I know there were other issues raised on the day about the utility regulator and about the fairness of a funding formula that militates against rural equality, all that type of thing. So I'll go to Councillor Green first.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just have to come in on what Councillor McAleer is saying there. The Minister was responding to almost every councillor that was in the chamber, bar Councillor McAleer, who wanted the A5 complete or started as fast as it could, because there was people losing their lives almost on a weekly basis, if not a monthly basis, on the A5. And the length of time that it has took to go to shovel ready was being delayed by constant legal challenges. When one legal challenge was finished, another one was thrown in. And I think the Minister was frustrated in that and actually made the point, does the people that are dying on that road on a constant basis, do they have rights? At what stage does the objectors have to cop themselves on, maybe? And so it was the A5. Every councillor there, by Councillor McAleer, I believe, was encouraging the Minister to get the A5 started as quickly as possible. And that was his response of why it was being delayed and delayed and delayed, and people dying and dying. And I think it was it's wrong there what Councillor McAleer was saying there. He was trying to paint a picture that the Minister was trying to block citizens from placing objections. He certainly wasn't. But it was specifically to do with the A5 and why the A5 has stalled for as many years as it has. And I think everybody in the chamber is in support of the Minister in his efforts to get the A5 started, and that the loss of life will hopefully end at that stage.
Councillor McCann.
Well, that's it, Chair. Yourself and Councillor Green hit the nail on the head of what I was planning to say. We had a great meeting with Minister O'Dowd there on Wednesday, and I think we can all agree he was very frank and robust in his responses and his engagement with all councillors. And I just want to make that point, Chair. Everyone had an opportunity to speak to him directly at the meeting, and I think it's unfair to levy stuff at him whenever he's not here.
Stephen, it might be appropriate for you to formalise in the full council meeting what you did recently at the meeting with Minister O'Dowd, if you want.
Actually, just now, Chair, yeah. Yep. Yeah, so I think there was mention of a correspondence going to the utility regulator in relation to comments that he'd made, so I'm happy to propose that now.
Okay. And also, in the meeting, Minister O'Dowd said that he was happy to go away and take a look at the funding formula, these rural equality points that our council is making strongly, in respect of roads, in respect of flooding alleviation measures, rivers-related work, wastewater treatment works, etc. So again, it might be helpful if you were to incorporate that in your proposal as well, that we invite him to respond as he said he would on those issues. Okay, thank you, Councillor McCann. And going now to Corlior McCaffrey. Sorry, it's Councillor Anthony Feely. It's the wrong description on the screen, Councillor Feely.
Yeah, I'll just second it. If you need a second of it.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Feely. Thank you. And, okay, just to see other councillors wishing to come in on this. Councillor O'Coffey, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I would have to support the interpretation that I think Councillor McAleer has given of some of the remarks made by the Minister. And I think it was very important that he's the first Minister, actually, that has come down and met with this council in this way, at least the first I recall. And I think he does deserve credit for that. But I do think he made a number of occasions, he referenced the low bar that exists as far as he was concerned for judicial reviews. And I think that this is part of a wider attack on the ability of individuals and concerned citizens to hold basic government decision-making to a standard of account, which I think may come under further attack, especially with the election of the likes of the new Tory leader in London. We're seeing a definite move towards the bonfire of rights and protections and environmental controls. And I think it would be a grave mistake if we were to see the same sort of, developments in Stormont as we're seeing in the south of Ireland. I have to say that I think it's been a slight misrepresentation there of Councillor McAleer's position. He certainly was, as far as I heard, he was supportive of investment to the west. He was against, obviously, turning this area into a sacrificial wasteland open to fracking and mining. But I do think that there was a criticism of the £80 million plus that has been spent on consultants at this stage for a project that hasn't proceeded at all. And it has to be asked, why is it that couldn't have been anticipated that environmental concerned citizens would have raised concerns around the development, and why wasn't it all factored into the plans before they proceeded? So I think that there was a lot of other issues raised there around the completely inadequate investment into our water infrastructure. I did raise the issue of public transport, but we didn't get a time, unfortunately, to deal with all those issues. But it was at least good, and I will finish with a positive point, that it was good that the Minister came down and engaged with us. And I think I would like to see more ministers actually engage with this council, because we certainly need to be putting the feet of all the ministers to the fire. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. And a lot of the comments that have already been made by some of the members, I certainly agree with. I think it's unfortunate that Councillor McAleer has been disingenuous by the comments being made by the Minister.
Objection.
What the Minister said at the meeting was the continued legal challenges are increasing the potential for further loss of life on this road. It's delaying the project. And what he did was he asked people to consider the further loss of life versus their legal challenge. He didn't say, don't do a legal challenge. He just asked that should be considered. And the other comment, which I think was very useful in the meeting, was to hear the voices of the people that are in favour of the A5. We should be calling on people that are in favour of the A5 to speak up and be heard, because it's the constant legal challenges is what we hear about. We don't hear about all the people that are in favour of the A5, which I think is imperative. And then the last comment there by Councillor O'Coffey in relation to consultancy costs was addressed by the Minister. A project of this scale is going to have consultancy costs for the planning of such a project. And it's not unusual for this type of project to have such costs. So I think two members are being a little bit misleading. So I had to come in just to make that comment. Thank you.
Okay. Chair, I object to that.
Emmett, I can't let you in. I have to go by the rules of the meeting. Next up will be Councillor Josephine Deehan, and then it'll be going to Councillor Coyle in the chamber.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Chair. And I agree that it was good that Minister O'Dowd did come and meet with this council, and he was very welcome, and I think he probably did his best to answer the questions as best he could. A lot of the meeting was given over appropriately, in my view, to the A5, and this council could not make its support for the progression of the A5 more clear. We speak about it on almost every available opportunity, and there is no doubt where this council lies in relation to the progression of the A5. Again, on the theme of accountability in the expenditure of public monies, I do feel very, very dismayed the amount of money that has been spent on this project. But as I said at the meeting, it's the price of democracy. People have a right to object. And I did ask the Minister if he felt justifiable objections had been addressed. That question wasn't answered specifically, but I think he felt the Planning Appeals Commission would determine that. One thing I want to ask Councillor McCann if he would include in his letter, we saw over the past weekend the horrendous flooding within our district council area, particularly around Drumquin. And I do feel that our district council area has had very little resources spent on infrastructure, and particularly on flood alleviation schemes. And Chair, with the worsening climate change disasters, we can expect more of the same. And I mentioned Omagh Town and the precarious situation that it was in. We urgently need those flood alleviation schemes in Omagh. The Minister did give an assurance that work was ongoing on that project, but that project has been in abeyance for many, many years. And if Councillor McCann would kindly state in his letter to the Minister that in view of the recent flooding within our district council area, we would appreciate if that work and exploration could be expedited and resources put into it as soon as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor John Coyle.
Thank you, Chair, and I attended the meeting on behalf of the SDLP, and I thank the Minister for coming down. He was very frank and honest, and I think that his predecessor, Nicola Mallon, was committed to the A5, and I am fully committed to the A5 because people have lost their lives. There are so many families across our district, across the Northwest, that have, you know, loved ones missing on their birthdays, loved ones missing at Christmas. Objectors have valid reason to object, but it is costing people's lives. We cannot, it should have been, a road should have been built in 2019. You know, it hasn't even started. It is causing huge delays, but I think that the majority of our community want the A5 delivered. It is going to bring benefit economically and safety to our residents travelling to and from the Northwest, and it has to be delivered as soon as possible, and I fully support the efforts in doing so.
Okay, I'll be coming to Councillor McCann shortly, but I'll be inviting Councillor Wilson in, who's on WebEx.
Yes, Chair. Well, I was unfortunately at a funeral in Fermanagh that day, where I would have been attending it and supporting the sooner the road started and completed, the better, because there is, as everybody says there, I'm not going to talk all night about it, but we all know how many people have been killed and the sad homes that are there. And the unfortunate thing is that I'm very afraid that there's only a chance if ever I see it completed. Thank you. Sorry, the 18th of August, there was a letter regarding the road at Seskinower correspondence. Was that mentioned yet? For this, I missed it.
It's on the agenda, and we'll come to that in due course. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Okay, Councillor McCann.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. You know, I'm more than happy to allow Councillor Deehan's reference to flooding in the letter. If it wasn't already included, maybe it was. If it wasn't, more than happy to allow it.
Thank you. And Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, well, I'm all for road and definitely lessening any loss of life, but 80 million, it's a massive figure. I'm not an inch of tarmac laid. It doesn't make sense. It shouldn't make sense to any of us. And another question we probably have to ask is, with regards to DFA and their budget, how much of their budget is going to go unspent this year because of the tendering shenanigans? You know, I think we really need to look deeper at this department and maybe further up. And with regards any hope that Mr. O'Dowd will deliver for the Rural West, when I look at when he was in his role as the Education Minister, the closure of Versley School, I don't think he came down to see the people there. So I wouldn't have much faith, but I wasn't at the meeting, I didn't hear what he said. So maybe somebody just can surprise me with some further information. Thank you.
Okay, I think in relation to the meeting, the 80 million point was covered, as Councillor Donnelly said, and it met with the nods of approval from DFI Road senior officials about the preparatory work that does go into a scheme of this nature. And one thing that I took away from the meeting, and nobody has referred to this, I think Minister O'Dowd came into office on the 13th of May, and one of the most striking things he did say was, he said, if I can be of any value to you, any help to you, it might have to be in the next 7 weeks, because come the end of October, we could be in a situation where everything collapses. That could very well be the case politically. So I took away from that the urgency of making moves, and that's why in Stephen's letter, I welcome in particular the reference to the funding formulas that are used that tend to discriminate against rural communities. So whatever can be done in the here and now needs to be done. Otherwise, it may never be done in the middle term. Okay. Have I any other speakers on this? No. Okay, I thought I had, but not. Okay. So that's that item dealt with. I had a proposer and a seconder for Councillor McCann's letter and agreed. Okay. So page 8 and 9. Okay. Coming to Councillor Green now.
Thank you, Chair. I think I had contacted you about any other business, but with your willingness, I think this is an opportune minute to bring it in. There's a cost of living motion later on, which is very welcome. I don't think I am going across the motion later on by what I'm going to propose. I am actually really in fear for the community and indeed for our own families and everything with the way the cost of living is going and energy prices. So I am asking or proposing that the council has a special meeting to deal with the upcoming winter and possible things the council could do. For instance, even at this stage, they could be doing a scoping exercise to all community halls and that to see how what provision they have for the winter. Will they even be able to run their activities this winter? A lot of other councils are looking into the possibility of the community halls actually opening up as a warm place for people if they cannot heat their homes. All of these things can be looked at. The social supermarket model, the community support grants, there's numerous different things. See, Nilga has suggested direct signposting on all council websites to any help there is. I'm not sure. I didn't look at our own council website, but if it's on it, I apologise. But all of these type of things need to be discussed. There's numerous others, but I'll not go into it. I can email on through a number of ideas and suggestions that we could look at in a special council meeting. So anyway, that's my suggestion, because whatever little we can do, it could save somebody's life in this winter time. And as I said, I am really fearful of what is going to happen this winter.
Okay, and your point grows out of 9.4 when we discussed DFC issues of poverty in the district. So you're proposing a special council meeting. I'll go now to Councillor Feely. as indicated.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, that's a good idea from Seamus there. Happy to second it.
Okay, thank you. Just to say, I'm going to invite Alison in a little second, maybe to talk about an engagement she had as Chief Executive of the Council earlier today with DFC data analyst, and I think it was very informative. But one point that has been put to me by people is that in the spring of 2020, the Council went into full emergency planning mode regarding COVID. And it's my view that the Council will move into full emergency planning mode regarding the cost of living crisis. So I'll hand over to Alison now.
Yes, Chair, certainly. Well, just specifically maybe in relation to the DFC, which might be of assistance in advance of the special council meeting. I know that the Economist data lead there, they've been doing a lot of work on the current trends and the difficulties around fuel poverty, food banks, the uptake, and would have quite a lot of data to share with us and have indicated their willingness to share that with members. So that maybe would be something we would progress. Certainly, Chair, in relation to the, it's something we can reflect on in preparation for the special council meeting, but it's certainly my expectation as well. We're bringing to you in October to the Policy and Resources Committee what essentially will be a revised budget. I appreciate the focus of Councillor Green's proposal is very much on the community impact and how we can help. I think we also need to bring to you the real financial impact that this is having on the Council as an organisation in terms of our utility, electricity, staffing costs, which we'll be coming to you separately about next week, and the implications that that has for our own operations. I think, but again, it's something we can research in advance of the more substantive discussion, Chair. All of the indications are that the financial settlements required associated with the cost of living crisis will be far in excess of what was needed for COVID. And the indications also are that there will be no central government support this time. So I think, sorry, to local authorities, and that we will have to absorb these costs within our own budgets, which will be very significant too. So happy to, if members are content here, we could maybe seek to schedule an informal meeting with the DFC economist just for you to have that data available. We'll certainly work to schedule the special council meeting. And my interpretation of what Councillor Green is saying, it's really the focus is on what the council can do, and we can undertake the scoping looking at our estate and other elements. I suppose what I would note in terms of warm places, again, in England, Treasury support has been available to local authorities to do that. Our understanding at the moment is that will not be available to councils. I know libraries NI are looking at warm places. We can certainly provide to you the facilities that we would have, and we would also engage with the community sector in relation to their own halls. So happy to take that on.
Thank you very much.
And finally, Chair, just on emergency planning, I think there is a likelihood that there may have to be wider civil contingency arrangements, of which emergency planning would be one, to deal with the impact of this crisis really across Northern Ireland as we head into the winter months.
Okay, thank you. Corleor O'Keenan.
Gordon Miagat, Kirlock. Yeah, the special council meeting might actually be a good idea, and I do know that we as councillors are linked into our community and embedded in different groups and different areas. We would have a certain amount of knowledge, but there are also groups that are already set up specifically with this. I know there's one in Omagh. There's a cost of living crisis group, and there's one down here in Fermanagh. It's called the Anti-Poverty Action Group, and these people are made up from various types of people, and mostly people who are really affected, who have come out and have joined these groups out of a necessity. And I think that possibly it would be the input of these groups would be very useful for us at this special council meeting or prior to it. And I would like to propose that we do invite representatives from the two groups to come and give us their views, their experiences, how things affect them, and how we can help them, because we are about community engagement, and these are two groups that have been set up probably fairly recently, but for the specific thing in our two areas in Omagh and Fermanagh. So I'd like to formally propose that if Seamus, or make that an addition if Seamus would be happy with that. Thank you.
Okay, I think there might have to be a bit of scoping out to do on the part of officials ahead of that. So far, we've agreed that there will be, reading the mood of the room, that there will be a special council meeting, that we will engage with the DFC economic analysis people. And Councillor Green wants back in as the proposer. Come in.
Yeah, no, I would be just a bit wary of specifically asking. I'm not that aware of these groups, and as Eamon said, they're recently formulated, whereas we have groups like Oak and ARC, and I'm sure there's ones in the Ohm area that's long established and extraordinary good groups, and I wouldn't like to be trying to undermine them by bringing in new groups that has been just recently formulated. So I think we should go on with our council meeting and let our officers scope out all these things themselves and talk to whoever they need to talk to.
Okay, and I think community engagement will be key as well, of course. Okay, I'm going to return now till page 9. Okay, page 9, over to Alison.
Thank you, Chair. Item 9.7, just to refer members to correspondence received from the Minister of Health. Now, this was only received earlier today, Chair, so it was uploaded onto decision time, and this is in relation to the acute mental health unit in Omagh. So, in summary, the Minister I suppose reflects on the recent council debates on the subject, would be regretful as to what he's describing as misreporting of the situation, sets out the various decisions in relation to the investment decisions, and clarifies that it still remains, the acute mental health unit still remains a priority for the department. In the penultimate paragraph on page 2 of the letter, the Minister advises that the SRO for the Trust was issued with correspondence on the 4th of July, inviting the Trust to submit a refreshed outline business case. And it goes on to say that if everything is approved and subject to confirmation of the budget allocations, the acute mental health inpatient facility in Omagh would be scheduled to commence in 24-25, and advises that previous funding bidding had been unsuccessful. There isn't a reference in the letter, Chair, to the Council's request to meet with the Minister on the subject, but it's quite a comprehensive response to some of the issues that we had raised.
Okay, thank you. And what automatically caught my attention is perhaps the avoidance of the request for a meeting. So I would like to propose that we reissue the request for an emergency meeting, an urgent meeting. And at this point, I would also want to commend Andy Campbell and Solus, based in Omagh, for convening a symbolic protest in the town last Saturday, at which all parties present were given the opportunity to speak. So I'll move now, if to look at my WebEx more than my chamber here, and the first speaker of 4 indications is Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm just wondering if you can see my notes from there. No, that's exactly what I was going to say, and I'm happy to support your comments on that. I think, first of all, the idea that or the notion that the I suppose the bones of the letter being sent was to instigate a meeting or arrange a meeting, and the fact that that wasn't even referenced, never mind turned down, as is often the case, just isn't good enough. So I'm more than happy to second you in terms of going back to the Minister and requesting that as a matter of urgency and as a matter of priority, because I suppose talking about 2024 or 2025, whilst in reality it's not that far down the line, in terms of this particular issue and in terms of the people of our district and their well-being, their mental health, it's a lifetime away, and I don't use that term as an exaggeration. I would also like to just briefly comment on the demonstration in Omagh on Saturday. Unfortunately, due to other commitments, I wasn't able to attend, but I did get an invite to it. And I'm just wondering, in relation to what the advice you had given there to a previous speaker on an issue, if I could propose maybe that council officers sound out a meeting with together with Solus Group with the view to arranging a meeting with them, if that was something that we could maybe look into instigating, I would appreciate that. So we'd just make that as a follow-on proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to go to Councillor Matthew Bell next.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think the letter was proposed to be noted, so I'll do that. But I would like to welcome the letter from the Minister. The mental health unit in Omagh to me is a priority and a must for Omagh, and I'm glad the Minister shares this opinion. As you mentioned, that there was over the weekend there was a demonstration. I'm using the word demonstration as Andy Campbell was very clear. It was a demonstration, not a protest, in Omagh. It was organised by the group Together in Solace, and I would like to second Emmett's proposal there for the council to start out to meet them because they are a fantastic group. Several members of this council, including myself, yourself, Chair, and Councillor Dr. Dean, had the opportunity to speak. I do think it's of note that no representatives from the DUP or SDLP were present, and I note that some of the DUP are coming in to speak now. From the councillors in Omagh that were present, I think we're all agreed that mental health and indeed this unit is a priority for Omagh. In Omagh at the protest, many people came up to me and they were concerned that this unit has been delayed. There has been no delay announced to this unit, and I think that's very important to have publicly said here today. And the reason why that some people in the town are worried and stressed there has been a delay announced is because some of the rhetoric from political representatives. So I do think going forward, we should all just take a minute to think through what we're saying and make sure everything we say is accurate. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And next up, Councillor Dehan.
Thank you, Chair. And of course, I will second the noting of this correspondence from Minister Swan. And I agree with you, Chair, that is absolutely important that we meet with Minister Swan. He has a busy schedule, but I think it's important for him to meet with our council to discuss many issues, including the acute mental health unit for Omagh. This is a unit that has long been promised, and I think at the meeting there was a placard held up which says "Broken promises cost lives," and there were contributions from people who spoke very movingly about their own experiences of mental health difficulties and the services that they needed and which were not provided in a timely fashion. So I think the acute mental health unit is something that is urgently needed. 24-25 is too late. So I think we need to be pressing again for more equitable distribution of public funding to our district council area. It's not just acute mental health services that need to be invested in, it's other community-based services. And I do have to pay tribute to the mental health charities for the excellent work that they do in supporting our community. But Chair, you were there yourself at the meeting on Saturday. You saw the level of emotion, you saw the distress, and we all know of the devastation caused to families and communities when sadly people die through suicide. Unacceptable, Chair. Far more people die through completed suicide than from road traffic accidents. So it's totally unacceptable. We need to have urgent action. Last year we had the long-awaited mental health strategy review, and we need to ensure that all those proposals are implemented without delay. So certainly I would support your call for a further invitation to the Minister to come down and meet us and talk about these important issues. Because on Saturday, elected representatives did promise to support those calling for better mental health services. So I think we do have a responsibility to deliver as much as we can in that regard. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Moving next to Councillor Errol Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, first of all, I think it's a wee bit disappointing, the comments from Councillor Bell there, but we'll leave it as it is. I did apologise to Andy Campbell. I know Andy from he was a young child, and I did apologise to him for my non-attendance on Saturday, as I had a long-standing engagement in Belfast. Otherwise, I would have been there. It was on our election paperwork as far back as 2019 and even before that by others within my party that we definitely do support mental health provision in the Omagh area. And I know Minister Poots, when he was there, was very supportive of that as well. So if I'd have been available, I would have been there, and I certainly do support the re-establishment of proper mental health provision within our town of Omagh.
Thank you, Earl. Thank you,
Thank you very
Councillor.
much, Chair. Thank you.
Moving now to Councillor Donnelly, Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I mean, I do want to take this opportunity to pay tribute to Together with Solace for the work that they have done to really put this onto the agenda. And I suppose I do want to stress that, I mean, last week I had the opportunity to visit them during the week because I knew I wasn't going to be able to attend the actual demonstration on the Saturday. And the one thing that I really took away from the meeting of people at their offices was that they're very happy, they're very cheerful, they're very affable bunch, but there was very real deep concern and worry about the potential for any delay of these services being brought to the Omagh area and the impact that could have in compounding an already difficult situation, because we all know what the challenges are in terms of rural isolation, intergenerational trauma, the challenges that we have faced as a community around suicide. And all of these need to be met head on with a coordinated effort and indeed with investment in bringing those services to this area that are going to be able to make sure that the needs of our people are met in the time ahead. And I would say, just in terms of the Minister, I actually think that Minister Swan is a good man. I think that he is somebody who cares, but I think that ultimately, if there are concerns around miscommunication, the answer to that is to actually make sure that there is visible, open dialogue going on between his department and the community to make sure that those misinterpretations are not there. And so on that basis, I think that it is important that we do continue to press for further engagement and a physical meeting between ourselves and the Minister to further discuss how we can advance this particular agenda item of trying to bring appropriate and necessary mental health services into the Omagh area.
Okay, thank you. And Corleor O'Coffey, Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And obviously, these services are actually of importance right across our council area. And we were just at an earlier meeting of the neighbourhood renewal area in Enniskillen, and the issue of inadequate, provision around the most pressing mental health cases is something that has been felt right across the whole council area. And the delay in building this in Omagh is actually having an impact right across the board. And certainly, from my reading of it, I don't think there's much certainty from the correspondence that we've received from the Minister. Certainly, he identifies his hopes that if everything goes well, it may be built in 2024-25 when he's unlikely to be a minister, let's be honest. But it's also notable that this was first proposed back in 2010, which is now, 12 years later, and we have seen no further development in it. You're on about 14 to 15 years potentially to actually deliver it. The fact that an attempt by the department to actually bring it forward with funding under the RRI, which I think is totally underutilized by Stormont, only last year was rejected. There's a lot of uncertainty in this as far as I read it. And I think we as a council, as with many other things, I think we should have a role really of holding the line and keeping the pressure on the ministers in Stormont and the departments in Stormont to actually deliver for the people here, because if we don't do it, no one else is going to do it. So, I think we certainly would support having the Minister in. There's lots of issues I'd like to raise with the Minister in terms of health, but I certainly support anyone that's trying to fight to bring this forward and actually demand. We need to see this in concrete, that there's no uncertainty, that there is an absolute commitment to these facilities because they're needed so badly, and they're needed right across our council area. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And just to conclude this matter, I think we're all agreed that the facilities, the current physical facilities, accommodation at Elm and Lime in Oma are inadequate, that they're not fit for the future, that chair beds are in use. We've discovered that. Councillor Rainey and I, Councillor Rainey joining me as Vice Chair of the Council, we delivered a letter to Neil Guckian of the Trust, essentially seeking the Trust's ongoing commitment in renewing and refreshing the full business case. That's what they were asked to do by the Department of Health. They assure us they're doing that. It was also pointed out to me by senior Unison representatives, a reminder that there is a serviced site adjacent to the new Oma Hospital. We all thought this was over the line, and you know, there's a non-negotiable, it's going to happen. That's why I think that we're very, very concerned at any notion of deprioritization. And at this time, I too want to just pay tribute to our mental health professionals who are doing a sterling job with limited resources. So I think we've agreed on a course of action there, and we're about to move on. Okay, Alison, it's clear. Okay, thank you. So that was page 9, and then page 10. And I think, is that the conclusion of that, or is it, sorry, page 11? Page 11. Okay, Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll just get myself unmuted here. Yeah, it's page 11.10.2, and just reference there to what we were chatting about, the cost of living crisis, but also the Oma uniform exchange. Now, I'm sure members are aware that last Saturday, August the 27th, the Oma Uniform Exchange closed its doors for the summer, and they were estimating that around 3,000 families benefited right across our community from the community working together, and that there would be 3,000 children sitting in schools from within this district area or our neighbouring districts of Derry City and Strabane District Council and Mid-Ulster District Council, who have been suited and booted courtesy of the volunteers involved and the donations that the team received there. I know that this council has spoken highly in previous times of the work carried out by Kathy Dawn and the entire team involved in the Oma Uniform Exchange. But I would like to maybe formally propose that we actually acknowledge that work in some sort of a suitable formal way, whether that be a letter or a note of gratitude from the chair, or whether it be some sort of a reception, if it's deemed appropriate, for the work that they have completed and carried out. Again, this summer, it's not the first time they've been at it, but having been up and seen and met with the ladies, just the work that they carry out is really, it's an invaluable contribution that they make. And these are all volunteers carried out free of charge, young people giving up their summer to go and help out with different shifts. So I think it's right and apt that we do make some sort of an acknowledgement to the work that they have carried out. So I would make that as a proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you, Emmett. Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to second Councillor McAleer's proposal and to pay my own personal tribute to the staff of Uniform Exchange. I think this demonstrates the strength of the community coming together, you know, to assist each other, really. And it's been an enormous success. And at a time of great financial pressure for many families, I think it has provided an invaluable service. I want to raise my concern, though, Chair, regarding the cost of school uniforms. And I think that what I would propose is that we would write to school principals of schools within our locality, highlighting to them the very high cost of uniform provision, not only the day uniform, but also sports gear. It's very costly, and you know, really, it is beyond the ability of many families to pay, and causes a lot of distress. I think some action needs to be taken and I would request, Chair, and propose that we as a council do formally write to our local schools, both primary and post-primary, just expressing our concern regarding the high cost of uniforms and asking that they would review their uniform policy and to seek to make the uniforms more affordable. Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to go to the chamber now to Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst I support the sentiment of Councillor Deehan's proposal to write to the principals, I wonder would you amend that, because I'm led to believe that the principals have a limited say, but to the chairs of the boards of governors of the relevant schools may be more suitable that the Board of Governors would review, because I believe they are the ones who decide the uniform policies in the schools. So I will second it, but if you maybe would amend it that it would be to the chairs of the Boards of Governors, which I think would be more appropriate. Thank you.
I'm going to anticipate that Councillor Deehan agrees with that. If you want to speak now briefly, Josephine.
Absolutely, Chair. Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. I think that you're probably correct in that. My assumption was that the principal would take the matter to the Board of Governors, but yes, I will agree to that. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you again, Chair. I just want to support the comments on this occasion of Councillor McAleer with regard to Dawn Little and her colleagues in the Uniform Exchange. I've had great reports over a period of time of the work that has been carried out there, and I have spoken to Dawn on a couple of different occasions, and I just want to commend them, and I would support whatever way you think as chair of the council that they should be recognised for their efforts. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Corey O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm just coming in on the back of what Councillor Deehan had said there, and I think it's a very opposite point she's made. Like the principle of school uniforms is something really that was designed to prevent parents being pressurized by fashion and all these other modes of extracting surplus value out of people, that to have to buy very expensive clothes for the children constantly, and it is something part of life is unavoidable to some extent. But the idea of a uniform was really to afford, that everyone would have the same, and that there wouldn't be any looking down, and there was no classism in schools. And it has become the opposite. It has become another mechanism under which more money can be extracted from parents. The prices being charged for school uniforms is literally ridiculous at times, for relatively minor pieces of clothing which could have been produced much cheaper, in alternative ways. There is an element of concern that schools have arrangements with suppliers. There is obviously a bigger element of concern that the schools feel themselves necessary to have such arrangements because the funding is so poor and inadequate from the government. So there's a lot of wrongs here. We certainly need to make the case that, I think someone said recently in Cuba, there's only one school uniform for every single school. And I don't see why that would not be the case. That's a good idea. And it would be cheap for everyone. Why don't we have something like that? We need to think outside of the box. Whatever international best practices, why don't we have that here in Northern Ireland? I think the idea of having cheap, good quality school clothing for every child, whether maybe a uniform for primary school, a uniform for secondary school, that gets rid of the snobbishness. It gets rid of the huge costs associated with this for parents. And at a time of crisis, isn't it only good sense? So I think we definitely need to act as proponents for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Baird.
Pardon me. Thank you, Chair. I'll have to declare an interest as a chair of a Board of Governors. But I would say that there's been an allegation there that schools have got closed shops and, no pun intended, are making money. That some schools may have that. I've heard it on radio that there are, but far from all, in fact, far from the majority of schools. But I'll take no further part in this debate. Thank you.
Okay. Go now to Councillor Garrity.
Thank you, Chair, and just declare an interest as a chair of a Board of Governors of a local school. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Coyle.
Yeah, declare an interest as a member of a Board of Governors.
Okay, thank you. And need to go now to Councillor Stevenson.
I'd like to declare an interest as a member of the Board of Governors of a school as well.
Okay, thank you. And Emmett, I'm just checking, are you declaring an interest because you've been in on this, substantively?
Chair,
Emmett?
just a very brief amendment to Councillor Deehan's proposal, if that's all right, because I didn't speak on that particular aspect of it. It would be just to see if she would mind including the Minister for Education, because I believe that legislatively they can actually give direction to the relevant bodies to actually enforce action.
Okay,
just if
thanks,
that could
Emmett,
be
for that.
considered. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Donnelly. Stephen.
It's just to declare an interest, Chair, as a member of a Board of Governors.
Okay, and Councillor Fitzgerald, Anne-Marie.
Yes, Chair, just to declare an interest as a chair of the Board of Governors as well. Thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Deehan has been in already.
Chair, if I may just, well, Chair, many of us as councillors are members of boards of governors. I am myself Chair. I mean, my original proposal was that we should write to the principals.
Yeah.
Councillor McCloherty has said that often uniform policy is decided by the Board of Governors. My assumption was that the principal would take the correspondence to Board of Governors. But I suppose if we revert to the original proposal to write to the principals and certainly the Minister for Education, then it would reduce the need for members to declare an interest. I am a member of a Board of Governors myself, but perhaps we should just revert to the original proposal to write to school principals, and this would get round the issue of Board of Governors and declaration of interests. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, just to check with Councillor McCloherty, he may not be content with that as the seconder.
Well, it sounds as though we're sort of bringing in a third party. We're asking the principals to then take it to their boards of governors. It seems...
Okay, we're going to keep it the way it is. I think, Josephine, with your agreement, because we have to move on.
I mean, I accept that there's councillors here who are members of boards of governors, but I don't think they do it for their own financial gain.
Okay.
And I don't believe that they're compromising themselves as councillors by allowing us to send these letters that the council in its totality is going to, wishes them to review their uniform policies, as Councillor Coffey had said, to provide the best quality and the best value for their pupils. So I don't think we're compromising ourselves.
No, there might be an issue. If Councillor Deehan wished to step aside as a proposer, she may be replaced by a proposer who's not a governor, for example. But I'll go to Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't going to speak on this, even though I am a chair of Board of Governors. I had no notions of declaring an interest in it because it has absolute no relevance. I think when you get into this thing of declaring an interest in these things when it has absolutely nothing to do, have we not all been at training on this? It's only where monetary things are concerned that would have to. It has nothing to do with the Board of Governors. The Board of Governors isn't getting any financial benefit out of it. We're all volunteers. So I have no notions of declaring an interest, even though I am a chair of Board of Governors, and I'm going to vote on it as well.
Okay. And to clarify a point that's being raised, the Minister has been included in the proposal to write. But I just want to check my WebEx now, and I have two speakers. Councillor Deehan.
Well, Chair, I mean, I really don't feel I need to declare an interest as a member of a Board of Governors, so I'm happy to propose the recommendation seconded by Councillor McCloherty. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Councillor Deehan. And are there any other indications? Councillor Garrity.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's just for clarity. The reason I declared an interest in this item is because of an inference made to financial gain between shops that supplied uniforms and perhaps Board of Governors or schools. I can categorically say that's not the case. in my school that I represent. However, that inference was made. So when that was put on the table, it became monetary. And therefore, I declared an interest as a chair, not a member, because as a chair, I would be receiving the letter. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, members, I think we're all agreed on the sentiments in the proposal. And if I could just add the following. I visited the Uniform Exchange, was delighted to be hosted by Kathy McNamee and Dawn Little. And those figures are amazing. I mean, day one, there was a queue outside. 5 days into it, I think the figure was 700 people had visited. And one thing I would say is, and it was conveyed to me, is that words are fine, but they would like practical help next year. And if I could maybe make the suggestion that our community support services team look at providing practical help in the meantime. For example, they would like to store the uniforms in a safe place between now and next year, because they're in volunteer homes. You know, that's where they're being kept variously. They have issues to do with rental costs for the number of weeks that the Uniform Exchange is in operation. Can support be achieved there? And I know that some councillors were practically helpful, and you know, things like provision of rails, all that kind of thing can be looked at by people, because more than words, they want practical help, as practical people do. And I'm happy to look at the methodology for acknowledging formally the work of the Uniform Exchange people. So that's that concluded on that matter, members. And we're still on page 11. Councillor Deehan, is your hand raised for page 11? No, thank you. Okay, maybe just on 10.4, and I don't want to open this up, but if we could maybe ask our Director, John Boyle, to maybe take a look at cafe provision at Oma Leisure Centre, Oma Leisure Complex. I know there's a recruit or an attempt to get someone to take up a franchise there, all of that. But if we could have a progress report on that, perhaps at the next RNC meeting. There's an urgency about having an eatery inside the Oma Leisure Complex. Okay, thank you. So page 12. Okay, members, I need a proposer and a seconder. No, don't, sorry, not for the matters raised, I did for accuracy. Okay, I just get my bearings again. I think we are at item 7 in the agenda. Is that right, Alison? Okay, matters arising then from the special council meeting of the 21st of July. And maybe just before I do that, we'll take a look at the clock. If we can all take a look at the clock. Okay, it's as opposed to 10 p.m. being the 3-hour mark, 10:20 p.m. will be the 3-hour mark. You know, you're all delighted to hear. You know, it's at 10:20 that we review the situation, Paul. You know, 10:20 as to whether or not we extend for the half hour. So 10:20 would be 50 minutes away. Okay, so back to item 7, matters rising, special council meeting the 21st of July. 4 matters rising, page 1, page 2, page 3. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just in relation to item 4 in the file for non-determination appeal and the correspondence at 7.1, which again notes with that there's over 45,000 representations to consider, and it being one of the largest pieces of work the Commission will have dealt with. I'd like to propose that we contact both DFA and the PAC, just inquiring, and this is a follow-on, I suppose, from the meeting with the Minister as well for infrastructure, just inquiring what support or resources are actually available to local residents and communities who are forced with facing the legal teams and the consultants which are going to be employed by Dalradian. And this is just, as I mentioned to the Minister, to ensure equal and equitable access to resources, which is something that's enshrined in the Aarhus Convention. And subsequently, as well as that, the letter references 8 cases related to the gold mine development. I would appreciate if we could get a response just on the list of cases with reference numbers, because there's the gold mine application that I'm aware of, 2 charge consent applications, 2 water abstraction applications, and the 2 heavy-duty power line applications. But by my maths, that adds up to 7. And again, I suppose highlights the project splitting, which is something that they're not supposed to be doing. But just in relation to those 2 items, I'd like to raise as 2 proposals. Thank you, Chair.
And are you proposing to note as well, Emmett?
I'm happy enough to note as well, yeah, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take a seconder for noting. Okay. Seconder for noting. Yeah, Adam, thank you. Councillor Gannon. By the way, Adam, I read recently that you got married. Congratulations. Okay. Everybody would join in with that, wouldn't they? We're not going to sing a song or nothing here, but okay. Now moving on. All right, well done, Adam, and good luck. Okay, that's that sorted. Have I got a seconder for Emmett's proposal then?
I'll second that.
Okay. Councillor Keenan, thank you. And that's an agreement, members, isn't it? That's agreed. Okay. So that was page 3, I think. Page 4. Page 5. And again, page 6, Councillor Wilson, we're anticipating you want to come in?
7.2, Chair, you passed that or not?
We're at
Do
the
with
5.1 Moyler Road,
Yeah.
Siskin. You want to come in now,
Yeah.
Bert?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, that road has had complaints for years and nothing has ever been done. It has been designated as the main thoroughfare from Fenton to the A5 for some reason or other, yet the work that needs to be done to make it safe at that Shields' Corner, as it's known, has never been carried out, and obviously they say here now that the programme was heavily oversubscribed, and it looks as if in the future down the line it's going to be pushed ahead of wherever. It's something similar to the cattle lorry that coped at the out at the A5. The corner is a corner that is sloped, and a lot of farm vehicles and cattle trailers and all that use that road. So it's the main thoroughfare out that way. And I would really, and on behalf of Councillor Rainey as well, I think that they would need to take another look at that and do something. That corner is not safe. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. And just on the correspondence aspect of things, Alison, do you want to comment before I bring in other members?
That's fine, Chair. It's really just to summarise, I suppose we've a response from the Divisional Roads Manager who acknowledges members' concerns but has indicated that there is no financial resource available to do any additional works in this area, but that they will be looking at the opportunity for increasing the warning signage in advance of that point on the road. So no
Okay.
physical works planned.
Thank you. I too share a serious concern about this. Shields' Corner, a couple
Yeah.
of families that live there, they're very, very used to cars going into their fields.
That's right.
Been alerted in the middle of the night, and they're saying to me, we're getting too old to be alerted in the middle of the night. And the injuries that are being sustained by people and the damage to cars is serious, and that is a very disappointing response.
Yeah,
in that
it
matter.
is.
Okay, moving on now
Thank you.
to Councillor McAleer and then Councillor Campbell.
Thanks, Chair. Just very briefly on that again, the response that the local transport and safety measures programme is heavily oversubscribed, and there are limited financial and physical resources to deliver the many hundreds of requests which are currently under consideration. Again, I'm mindful of the meeting with the Minister and the officials from his department that it was a quote or something fairly akin to it as what you had fired at them, this kind of generic response. And I suppose across the district we're aware that what are deemed rural roads or lower traffic roads are those that are less priority to the department. But the fact of the matter is that they make up the majority of roads across our district. So again, the idea of rural proofing and looking after the constituents that we represent is one that's kind of being ignored and being swept under the rug. I'm not sure if Councillor Winston actually made a proposal to go back and for them to revisit this, but it is,
Yeah.
as you said yourself too, that that it is something that is unfortunately, and this was something that I recall was said back to me at the first meeting we had with DFI as a councillor, that it's nearly a prerequisite that there is a bad accident or a fatality at a spot before they'll consider doing work, and that's not a good representation, and we don't need Councillor Deehan or Dr. Deehan to say that prevention is better than cure. We're all well aware of that, especially when we're talking about the serious impact that road safety and these dangerous roads have across our district. So if that's a proposal from Councillor Wilson, I'm very happy to second and support it, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to do that, yes. And just 2 minutes at the back, about half a mile from my own house, my wife and me were driving last week. The road had dropped down and had been ignored for quite a while. It would have the side of the road would have dropped down about 9 inches. My wife didn't even see the car, but she said there's some boy standing down there. The car was actually down. It had dropped about 20 foot down into a pile of trees, and the 4 wheels were in the air, but they could come out and fix it the next day when they had to do it. And I was very lucky that that young man wasn't injured. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Campbell.
Harley, and I fully support the proposal and your comments and that of Councillors Wilson and McAleer. It certainly is very concerning, and as has already been said there's a sense that someone has to get, there has to be a fatality, and that's a sad state of affairs. We do know that in recent weeks there has been in recent days really a fatality as a result of another notorious stretch of road on the Chumry Road in Drevor. And obviously we would all, be mindful that not only fatalities but also serious injuries can be life changing for those involved, and for people that have to, as you say, pull people out of, rescue people, and I'm sure more often than not they're relieved that the people are okay, but there's a serious risk to people's lives, and I do think that has to trump. There has to be some way around that in terms of making these accident black spots safer.
Okay, thank you. So I think again the proposal as seconded has the agreement of all members. Okay, thank you. Just to ask a question, Alison, about when do you think is the DFA roads engagements with the DEA meetings? The DEA meetings are important, aren't they?
Yes, Chair. Generally, we would, as members know, have 2 meetings per year. We have had difficulty probably over the last couple of years because DFI have not wanted to have the engagement until their budget has been confirmed. And that's my understanding this time as well. Normally it would be September, but I know we have been in touch, but as of yet, we don't have a provisional date for the special council meeting. We'll follow up again on that, because the normal feeder would be, as you say, the DEA meetings, and then we would have the strategic roads report. So we'll follow up on that.
I think all councillors value those meetings, so we need to have them as soon as possible. Okay, thank you. Moving on now to item 8 in the agenda, and that would be matters arising from the special council meeting of the 17th of August 2022. This amounts to 6 pages. So matters arising, page 1. Glenn, would you just take down your hand if you didn't mind, unless you want to speak on page 1, matters arising? Thank you. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. Okay, Councillor McAleer.
Yes, Chair, mindful of the time, I'll be very brief, but I'd just like to commend the council, I suppose, on the decision that was taken, and again, just voice my concern and my disappointment that the Ulster Unionist Party felt the need to try and overturn the decision by default, issuing kind of a last minute call-in to allow that to proceed. But I'd just like to thank and say well done to those who voted to oppose that. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Warrington.
Thank you. Well, contrary to earlier comments, I'm not a spokesperson for any of the mining industries, but the reason that our party lodged the objection was because on the night, obviously those who proposed went against all the statutory bodies and all our own officers. And I think that sets a bad precedence out there. So that was our reason for calling it in. It wasn't for any other reason contrary to what some members like to say. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McCann.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the correspondence received from DFA in relation to our council decision, there was some discussion and some comments made on the night of the special council meeting that there was a risk that this decision, if it went against officers, could be called in by the department, and it was mentioned by some members as well. So it's clear here that the department has no desire to call in our decision, and it just reinforces our own ability, to make our own decisions and stand over them and make them with confidence, Chair. So I think that's underlined by this correspondence from the department.
Okay, and propose to note. Okay, and then a seconder to note the correspondence. Okay, Diana, thank you. Councillor Armstrong. Okay, that's item. Oh, sorry, Councillor Donnelly. Stephen.
Chair, I mean, just to make a brief comment on this, because I mean, we're going to have situations like this again. I think that quite often, particularly when the gold mining issue comes up, I mean, there is a great deal of sanctimony that happens. I mean, are we to take it that the Ulster Unionist Party in this council has never voted against the advice that has been given, or never going to do so again? All the rules were followed in terms of the fact that on the night, justification was provided in the context of the legislation, as is expected whenever a decision of that nature is being taken. And honestly, I think that we could do with less of the sanctimony in the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Donnelly. And I think the invitation isn't being taken up at this time, so we'll move on from that. Page 5. Page 5. Okay, so that's that matter dealt with in terms of the agenda. And we move now to correspondence. And Alison, would you help me go through section 9?
Thank you, Chair. So the first item, 9.1, we have 2 items of correspondence from the Department of Health. The first is in relation to the Council's queries regarding the Carrickmore GP practice, the status of capital works. And the second item from the Permanent Secretary in the Department of Health refers to both the Rosslea GP contract, and that was why a different model had been chosen in Dromore and Trillick than was the case in Rosslea, and also comments on the Carrickmore GP practice and the capital provision for that site.
Okay, so 3 correspondences. The first indicated, okay, 2 first of all, 1 and 2.
For completeness, then the third letter is from the Minister, and this was specifically regarding the Dromore and Trillick practice, the date of the temporary arrangements, which is they'll be in place till the 31st of March, and the governance and oversight, and the wider retention of GPs, and the SPPG, which is the Strategic Planning and Performance Group, will be the lead agency in that regard.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Councillor Catherine Kelly as the first speaker, then Councillor McCann, then Councillor McAleer, and then Councillor Deehan. Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, Chair, thanks for letting me in on the important issue of Carrickmore Health Centre, something that's acutely felt by my constituents. I know you yourself and some other councillors here are familiar with the health centre, so you will know that it's appropriate from the outset to compliment the staff, all of the staff in the health centre who are dedicated to their patients. In the letter in the response we received from Dr. Margaret O'Brien, she mentions identifying the preferred options. Well, I would argue that can be very easily done. When you speak to the professionals in the centre, the answer is we need a new healthcare centre in Carrickmore. We've needed a new healthcare centre for over 20 years. And the need for the new healthcare centre has been well documented in decades-long communications with the Western Trust and indeed with the Department of Health. In 2020 and 2020 alone, it was raised twice in the Assembly by my colleague Declan McAleer, who got a similar response from the Minister of Health as we have got in this letter from Dr. Margaret O'Brien. The practice in Carrickmore, just for information, currently serves, well, approximately 10,000 patients. And there are increasing requests for patient registrations associated with the difficulties from GP services in our neighbouring towns and other areas. That's adding to an already high pressured situation. The current premises are completely inadequate and insufficient. Besides the additional pressures, GP shortages, for example, the inability to maternity coverage, there's just not enough room in the health centre in Carrickmore for staff, for patients, for equipment, or for patients to get the healthcare they need. I've had ongoing conversations with from the health centre for 3 years now, and just this week, I was informed by a member of the staff that a much anticipated multidisciplinary team, including nurses and some mental health professionals, could not come to Carrickmore because they cannot be accommodated in the current premises. There is nowhere to put them. There's simply no room for an MDT team. And I'm sure you'll agree that's a very serious situation. One long-standing member of the health team there said to me, and I want to quote what was said, he said to me, "Our patients are entitled to receive fair, equitable access to healthcare services in Carrickmore. Currently, they are receiving anything but equity. We, the staff, consider it the responsibility, not the gift, of all responsible bodies to redress this inequity in Carrickmore as a matter of urgency." Chair, Carrickmore Health Centre has been on the long finger for far too long. I would ask this council and our members, particularly the members of our Health and Social Care Services Subcommittee, to keep the pressure on the Western Trust, who in turn need to keep the pressure on the Department of Health to deliver and advance the business case for the Carrickmore Health Centre, and finally get the patients the healthcare that they need. And I finally would like to support all the previous calls from all other councillors for a meeting as a matter of urgency with the Minister of Health for all the health issues that are affecting our constituents every day. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCann. Turn your mic on now.
Chair, thank you. Okay, I'm just happy to propose the noting of the correspondence to Council from the Department of Health in relation to Thurles and Moore surgery. I do want to just note...
No issue if you did the other two as well, Stephen?
Yeah, happy to do the other two as well. Yeah, surely. Yeah. Just in relation to Thurles and Moore correspondence, Chair, you know, I do have to comment on the length of time it took the Minister of Health to respond to this local government authority. We wrote to him on the 9th of June, and at that time, the two practices was facing closure with no solution in sight. And it took him 10 weeks to respond to this council. And that was 6 weeks after the solution had been found. So although it's welcome that we're still operational and the surgery is still open, albeit some issues remain, you know, it's not really good enough that it took almost 10 weeks to respond to the council in this serious matter, Chair. Just to note that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McAleer.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, Councillor Kelly's reception wasn't that great, but I think she did make a proposal in relation to Carrickmore Health Centre, and I would be happy to second that because the content of the first and the second letters, it's referenced the idea that it has been identified as a priority for capital investment, but again, the kicker is the scale and the timing of any developments will be subject to the availability of a capital budget. Yourself and others will know that it's an old building, and you know, serious work needs to be done there in terms of bringing that up to speed. And just in relation to the final letter, and Councillor McCann there, I think, proposed a note. I'll propose or second to note the letters.
That's good.
Again, the length of time, over 2 months to reply to the letter, but the same issue. There was no response, and I appreciate that as Councillor McCann said there, the issue had been resolved in the short term at least. But the request to meet was included in that. And the direct quote, "We trust you acknowledge the seriousness of this situation and that you will give the issue and the council's request for a meeting your immediate attention. The council looks forward to receiving your urgent response on this matter." And that was the 9th of June. And we got a response on the 16th of August, where again, the idea for a meeting or the request for a meeting wasn't even acknowledged. So given the fact that this is going to be an ongoing, it's what, as he acknowledges within the letter, it's a short-term fix. We should pursue the request to meet with the minister on this matter, and if it hasn't already been proposed, I would propose that we do follow up on that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so we'll have the proposal and second to note, which is helpful, but I'll move now to next up would be Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. And I think that Councillor Catherine Kelly makes sense in everything that she says. It is impossible to deliver adequate medical services from premises that are grossly inadequate. And the extension and renovation of Carrickmore Health Centre has been in the pipeline now for many, many years. And I think it's just absolutely disgraceful that that work has not been commenced. I think what it illustrates is that the Department of Health don't give any priority to primary care. And it's important for members to realise that primary and community care is the bedrock of the NHS. Secondary and tertiary medical services cannot function without strong primary and community care. And for too long, it has really been the Cinderella services with very, very little investment in primary care. And finally, the chickens have come into roost, and we see primary care in a crisis situation, as exemplified by the situation that arose with regard to the surgeries at Dromore and Trillick. And Chair, I have to remind members as well that the Western Trust taking over the contract in Dromore and Trillick is only a temporary measure. And that arrangement is due to end at the end of March. So we need to be cognizant of the fact that we need urgent attention to looking in detail at how we can support primary care. That is why we need an urgent meeting with the Minister. And I agree with Councillor McAleer that he really glossed over that request. I understand he's very busy, and I commend him on the work that he did through COVID. But really, now that the pressure is off to some extent with regard to COVID, let him come and meet us and discuss our very just concerns regarding healthcare services here in our district council area, and particular primary and community care, of which premises and support of premises is a very, very live and real issue. So I definitely support Councillor Kelly's proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, so move on now to Councillor Keenan.
Yes, well, with regards to the Roslay surgery letter, I have been contacted by the Roslay Save Our Surgery campaign group, and it's their view, and it's the view of many people in Iron East, that the department's main priority should have been to reinstate a GP in situ in Roslay, and under no circumstances should the patients of the Roslay GP surgery have ever been shifted unwillingly under the care of Maple Group. Maple Group at the time couldn't adequately look after their initial patients that they had, never mind look after the additional patients from the Roslay surgery. And on this note, surely at the time there must have been a survey or a business case done to make sure that Maple Group were able to cater for the extra patients. So I would like to propose that we as a council request to see this paperwork, and could we also ask the department to undertake a fresh review of the capability of Maple Group to cater for its 15,000 or so patients. who are being catered for by what has been reported 4 full-time doctors, and it could be actually less at the minute. And on a side note, as the department references amalgamation in the letter, if the department was keen on amalgamating the practices, why didn't they maintain the surgery in Rosslea using the GPs from Maple? And what is stopping the Trust from looking at this option now? Has the Trust any plans whatsoever to reinstate a GP in Rosslea? Because it's the belief of many that this is the only solution to alleviate the pressure from the surgery in Lisnaskea, and this is based on what we have had in the past and what we have now. And what we have now is clearly not working. And a new surgery, yes, is to be welcome, but it must not be at the expense of the rural communities such as Rosslea, Newtown, Butler. And we talk here a lot about rural proofing, and surely this is a clear example of a total lack of rural proofing. And I think this issue needs to stay firmly on the agenda, and it has to be resolved. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the Carrickmore GP practice and the proposed new bill there, I would request that the council write to the Minister for an update on the Lisnaskea Health Centre. I know last year there was a big announcement made that it was ready to go, and it was ready. It was almost about to start. Almost 12 months later, we're still waiting. I'm looking in at the site every day. There's not a soul to be seen on it. No sod turned on the ground. Could we ask when there is going to be a start date on this? Because as far as I can see, we cannot attract doctors to the facilities we have at the minute, and unless we upgrade our facilities, that has been talked about for 17 years now. 17 years this has been in planning, and I'm just wondering, many health centres and these provisions was asked for 17 years ago down about County Down and County Antrim and Belfast, that is now been built, because I would be very shocked that it's taken them that long to actually build a new facility down around Belfast or Bangor or wherever, but it's taken that length in rural Fermanagh. And we have 4 doctors now covering a vast area of Erin East, and it just isn't good enough. People cannot get access to doctors, and unless something drastic is done, it's going to continue. So one of the main things is to get that health centre built, then have satellite facilities out to rural villages. Then when we do attract the doctors to a proper facility. So I would propose that we write and ask for an actual start date, not some imaginary thing like that was announced last year. I think Minister Swan has got away almost scot-free overhead of the COVID crisis and all. The health service has fallen down, collapsing around his ears, and I don't see anything happening to warrant all the praise that he has got, to be honest. But anyway, maybe he'll be able to give us a start date after 17 years.
Okay. Councillor O'Coffey, Corlear O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm happy to second that proposal from Councillor Green, but I also wanted to second the proposal from Councillor Keenan. This correspondence from the Minister is kind of it's quite concerning, really. How it seems that there's like a very obvious question, really. In the case of Dromore and Trillick, there was an intervention by the department, which they seem to justify on the grounds that it was not necessary because there was a possibility of an amalgamation in Fermanagh previously. So that when you compare one to the other, why is it they approach one differently to the other? Well, the justification is that in the case of Rosslea, there was a GP willing to take it on, but just not practice in Rosslea. And that's completely unacceptable from the perspective of providing access to a community for basic and primary healthcare. And I think Dr. Deehan certainly has highlighted the fact that primary care under consecutive health ministers of various political parties has been underfunded and under-resourced. And this is a long-term crisis that has been forecast for many, many years. There has been a complete failure to invest in the capital infrastructure necessary. But where I would disagree with Dr. Deehan is that I think that there's a need for government to actually step in and intervene, because the market, the private market, that is the reliance on GP contracting or GP contracting rather, is clearly failing in rural areas. It may be the economic model, it may be various pressures, but there is market failure, and it's quite clear. And when you have market failure, there's an obvious case for intervention. And as someone who believes in the old NHS 1948 model, I think the NHS should be providing primary care anyway, and that GPs should be rewarded appropriately for it. So I'm happy to support both the proposals by Councillor Green and Councillor Keenan, but I think that this really opens the door to the question why the health sector, why the needs of the community in Rosslea was not counted in terms of access, was not counted on the basis of equality with those in Dromore and Trillick. And I'm glad to see that there's been an intervention. I don't think it should be a temporary thing. I think it's the only way to resolve our health crisis, as well as massive increase in funding for primary care. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, as one of the councillors, along with both Councillor Robinson and at that time Councillor McCaffrey from your own party and Councillor McPhillips from the SDLP, we were very active at that time in Rosslea trying to get solutions, and we attended several meetings and discussed several possibilities. Obviously, at that time, the Maple Trust obviously felt in a position where they could take on Rosslea at that stage. We battled hard to try to get them to do satellite surgeries, but unfortunately to no avail. We also battled hard to get even a nursing service out into Rosslea and Newtown Butler, again to no avail. I suppose at that time the Maple Centre had quite a few GPs. I appreciate they're now down to 4. I think they have an access of 16,000 patients. So that in itself says a lot. Unfortunately, there's great difficulties there with the amount of patients that they have and dealing with that. I certainly, and what Councillor Green was saying on the new surgery in Lisnaskea, I will follow that up as well to see what the story is on it, because obviously it is so needed. We mentioned Carrickmore surgery. Obviously, I'm not aware of that area, but I know that the surgery that the Maple Health practice is practicing out of in Lisnaskea is not fit for purpose. It is everything wrong with it, from parking to accommodation to help all the different carers and physios, etc., that needs to come in. I suppose it's also important to remember that the trust is not directly responsible for GPs. Again, I'm not going to speak on it because I'm just not 100% sure why they got involved with the Dromore and Drumquin situation, and we're certainly glad that they did. But I know they've told us at their committee meetings ongoing that they are not responsible for GPs and have been very hesitant in dealing with. So I think that's just important things to remember. We've done our best for Rosslea, and you know, I know there's now another push on to try to get something achieved, and certainly I will do whatever I can as a representative of Erne East and as somebody who was born and reared in Roslay. Obviously, I will do what I can to push that forward going forward. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, and Councillor Garrity.
Thank you, Chair, and Barry, I'll be very brief, and it's just Victor Dromore and Drumquin, it's Dromore Trillick surgery. However, I do acknowledge the support for everybody, and health is your wealth, and we all know that. But I think Councillor McAleer did reference the length of time it was to respond, and I think he indicated that perhaps another invitation, seeing as the Minister ignored our request to meet with a matter of urgency. I know there was support in general, but just in case it hasn't been formally seconded, I would second that he is invited again as a matter of urgency, because as all people have quite rightly said, this is in place to the end of March, and with the difficult winter that we have predicted on many levels, that will pass in very quickly. So I think we do need to keep this pot on the fire, so to speak. So apologies if Josephine had, I don't think she formally seconded, but just to make sure it was seconded that letter would go off. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I think all councillors who wish to speak in this debate have spoken already. Josephine, I'm looking at your hand still up. Have you a very brief point?
Well, yes, Chair, just very briefly, and thank you for allowing me to contribute to the debate again. Councillor Warrington was wondering why it was that the Trust intervened. The fact of the matter is that despite the fact that the Dromore and Trillick contract was widely advertised, there was not a single GP who was willing to take on that contract. Now, in her letter, Chair, this evening, Dr. O'Brien has stated that they will do everything that they can to attract and retain GPs to our district council areas, to areas of need. And we know that this council has lobbied extensively for increasing training places through the new medical school at Magee, and we hope that those young doctors will come through, but it will take some years, and we hope that they will stay.
Josephine, if you can just conclude, Josephine, please.
Yes, I will. I appreciate that. No, it's just that the crux of the matter is support for primary care, getting in more GPs, and as Councillor Catherine Kelly says, providing suitable accommodation so that the primary care team can be expanded to include the multidisciplinary team. So accommodation is key, funding is key, support is key. We need to get the Minister down to emphasise those messages, Chair.
Thank you. And in the interest of fairness, and concluding with Victor.
Just going to be very brief. Josephine actually reminded me, like Roslay advertised for a GP as well, and didn't receive any applications for the post, basically because it was a single doctor surgery, and single doctor surgeries are not attractive anymore.
Okay.
Thank you.
So members, we've had various proposals.
Through the Chair, just a quick one. Possible, Chair.
Eamon, I'm really struggling here to keep the meeting alive.
I'll just be very quick. Just
one sentence, please. One sentence.
Yeah, just on Seamus's motion with a new surgery. I came across, some information might be useful here. I came across on the 28th of August there, details of an asset transfer of the site on the Murlock Road, which is a 2-acre site where the proposed development is supposed to be for the new surgery. So that looks like it's up for grabs. So it's not. I was just wondering, is it actually in possession of the department at the minute, or is it still?
Well, we're going to find that out, Eamon. We're going to find that out. And I think what we've identified here, members, is that this evening, acute mental health unit in Omagh, rural GP services, and capital builds that are outstanding. I was glad that Councillor Green referenced Lisnaskea there, because my understanding over a long period of time is that Lisnaskea and Carrickmore and Fintna have been mentioned as 3 priorities within the Western Health Trust for capital build. So obviously we have a job of work to do within the healthcare group to keep that issue on the agenda as well. But I'm anticipating agreement on the various proposals that have been seconded and are now agreed, members. Okay, thank you. Now, 10:15. Alison, I wanted some guidance from you on time management for the rest of the meeting. Yep.
Well, Chair, we have a 3-hour duration, which would end at 10:20. You would have the provision to go for an extra 30 minutes, but only if you thought all remaining business would be concluded. And given that you have 3 motions ahead, I think that's highly unlikely. What I would suggest, Chair, you may wish to move to confidential, just that we would be able to adopt formally the confidential minutes of the council meeting last month. And I think that's reasonably all that you will conclude this evening. If you were in agreement, Chair, the motions in question could be, in accordance with standing orders, referred to the relevant committees. That would be the motion number 1, 10.1 would go to regeneration and community, as with the cost of living crisis, and the independent public inquiry would go to policy and resources, so they would all be dealt with next week.
Okay, I'm keen to do things as much as possible by agreement. There's no attempt to push the motions off the agenda. They will be heard in the Regeneration and Community Committee meeting this day week, 2 of the 3, and the 3rd one would be heard at the Wednesday night meeting of next week, the P&R meeting. And if that meets with the agreement of members, then we'll operate on that basis. And if members agree, could I take a proposal for that course of action? Okay, Councillor John Coyle is first.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Could I just ask the Chief Executive, do you know what the agenda is like for the committee meetings next week?
Not, we obviously have some reports for regeneration and community, but certainly manageable in terms of the motions, and similarly for policy and resources.
Okay, well, if that's the case, I'll so propose that they're
Do I have a second there?
I second that.
Okay, okay. I'll take it from Councillor Wilson. Okay. Okay, so I'll just agree on that. That's agreed, members. Okay, next thing, obviously on the agenda, part 2, confidential business. This won't take long, I presume. So I need a proposer and a seconder. John and Stephen will take for moving into confidential business. Thank you. So we stop the recording. Okay. Ready to go?
Chair, thank you. Just to advise, while in committee, the council adopted the confidential minutes of the council meeting held on the 28th of July 2022 and received a further update in relation to human resources matters, which will be provided in more detail at next week's Policy and Resources Committee meeting.
Okay, thank you. So the meeting has now concluded, members. Meeting concluded. That's it.
Right.
Propose that, Chair, in case you needed it. Hawaii.